Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be giving you a beginner's guide to SailPoint IdentityIQ, one of the leading identity and access management solution used in industry today. So my goal here is to help you get started with the basics of IIQ, to understand how it works, what is the main component are, and how everything fits together. Later on, I will be uploading in-depth videos that go deeper into each topic, so you will get a complete hands-on on understanding of a SailPoint step by step. So here is the quick overview of what I will be here covering. So first setup, like we will start with installation, setting up the SSD, Git integration, and configuring your IDE. Then IIQ configuration, like you'll explore global settings and understanding how to tailor IIQ for your environment. Then application onboarding, like how to connect different systems and bring their data into IIQ. Then provisioning, we will see how access is actually granted or revoked access system. Then essentials like debug page, console, task, groups, work groups, capabilities, access request, and work items. Then policies and reports to help you to manage complaints and visibility. Then like certification, we will look at how access reviews and certifications works. Then forms and quick links, like how to make IIQ more interactive and user friendly. Then finally, like workflows, where you'll see how automation ties everything together. So if you are new to SailPoint or looking to strengthen your IIQ fundamentals, you are in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the upcoming videos in this series. So let's get started. SailPoint IIQ is an identity and access management software platform custom built for complex enterprises. It delivers full lifecycle and compliance management for provisioning, access request, access certification, and separation of duties. The platform integrates with SailPoint's extension library for connectors to intelligently govern access to today's essential business applications. So let's see some basics of IIQ. So identity data collections, governance, request access and provisioning, and business modeling are the pillars of IIQ. So let's see what is identity data collection. So it is the process of gathering and managing identity related information for users within the organization. This could include various personal and role based details such as like users information, roles and permission, security group memberships, access to system and applications, personal identification information like employee name, department and job title, and audit and compliance data related to the access rights. Identity data collection is essential for various functions such as ensuring proper access controls, conducting regular access reviews, generating reports for auditing and compliance purposes, automating users provisioning and deprovisioning, and enforcing policies for access management. So the data collection involves certain steps, that is like data source integration, data collection, data normalization, identity correlation, maintenance, and updates. So data source integration is like identifying the data source, like determining the system, applications, and directories from which identity data will be collected. This could include like AD, human resource system, database, and other directories that holds identity information. Next will be configuring the connectors, like IIQ integrates with various system via connectors that pull identity data. Then a data collection involves like collect key identity attributes like employee name, department, position, and all. Then fetch information about the user's access to various applications, resources, and systems. Then identify the user's membership in security groups, roles, and access control lists that are essential for determining their access permission. Then capture data related to users' access history, security events, and changes to identity information for audit and compliance reporting. Then we have data normalization, that is standardizing the data. So the data pulled from various systems may vary in format, structure, and terminology. Like normalizing the collected identity data ensures consistent across system and makes it easier to apply policies and security measures. Then mapping the data, like map the attributes from different system to a standardized format within IIQ to make it used for identity correlation, reporting, and policy enforcement. Then we have correlation, like IIQ uses correlation rules to merge data from different sources and create an unified identity for each users. So lastly, like we have maintenance and updates using data refresh. Like identity data should be consistently updated to reflect changes such as role changes, access modification, terminations, or new highs. IIQ supports a periodic synchronization with a source system to ensure the identity data remains up to date. The next pillar will be business modeling. Business modeling in IIQ refers to a process of defining and structuring the organization roles, policies, and workflows in SailPoint IIQ platform in a way that aligns the organization business requirements. It allows organizations to automate, manage, and govern users' identities, access rights, and compliance process effectively by translating business rules, functions, and roles into IIQ environment. So this involves roles management, entitlement modeling, policies and rules, lifecycle management, access certification and review, workflow modeling, and reporting and analytics. The next thing within IIQ is governance. The certification process in IIQ is often used for access reviews or entitlement reviews where designated individuals such as manager, role owners, or compliance officer review users access periodically and certify that if it's still valid and appropriate. This process ensures that access is aligned with the organization security policies and compliance regulations. Lastly, we have request access and provisioning. Both are the two most important IAM capabilities. Request access is the process where users or any of the managers or a team member can request a new access to application roles or entitlements through IIQ access request interface. It provides self-service way for employees to request what they need without a manual IT intervention. Typically, access request flow involves users logs into IIQ, navigate to my access, and then search for a role or entitlement and submits the request. The request goes for approval. Once approved, the system moves to provisioning and the user is notified once access is granted. So then we have a provisioning, which is a process of actually granting or revoking access on target system based on approved request, policies, or lifecycle event. So it's how SailPoint execute changes, turning requests into real-world account updates. It has certain types like automated provisioning, like IIQ automatically makes changes via connector once approval is completed. Then manual provisioning, used when a target system has no connector, like help desk or admin complete it manually, then mark it as done in IIQ. Then we have role-based provisioning and lifecycle event provisioning, like access is automatically granted or revoked when a user is assigned or removed from group. Then triggers, IIQ also triggers lifecycle events like joiner, leaver, mover, and all. So the example for provisioning is user request access to a Salesforce analyst role in SailPoint. Then request is routed to a manager and a Salesforce owner for approval. Once approved, a SailPoint generates a provisioning plan to add the user to a correct Salesforce group. The Salesforce connector executes the changes and IIQ reconciles to confirm the user now has the role in Salesforce. So this is about basics of SailPoint IIQ. So in this video, I will be explaining all SailPoint IIQ concepts using GitHub documentation and code examples only. So I won't be demonstrating directly on SailPoint IIQ application as my previous channel faced copyright issues for that. Thanks for understanding. So let's start with initial setup which you need to do if you want to start with SailPoint IIQ. The first thing is installation. So here's the high level installation steps you need to follow. That is first you need to download IIQ version, whatever the version you want, download it from SailPoint campus and place it in your local system and expand it. So then configure extended and searchable attributes. Means once you download your IIQ version, place it in under Tomcat web apps and then go to webinf, then modify the required extended attributes. I'll show you an example here. So here is the path webinf classes SailPoint object, and so within that IIQ provides some default extended default objects like application, bundle, certification, identity extended, like again identity link managed server and target. So I will give an example here. I have, or they provide identity extended attributes. By default you will get 20 extended attributes. Some has index for it. They have given index for it. Like if you want to add index further, you can go for that as well. Again, as I mentioned, like by default they have provided 10 and you can extend up to 20. So this is like this includes the name extended 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 20. So if you want to create a named attribute, let's say if you want to create an attribute called employee type, or here is an example for cost center. This is a named attribute. So how it goes is like you will have one type of attribute called extended attribute. One is default attribute where a SailPoint provided, like first name, last name, name, ID and all. It's a default column name which SailPoint provides, and with that you'll have 20, or you can create 20 extended attributes. Then if you want to create a named columns, so you can use this, like uncomment this. So this has like extended property accessor. So using this you can create a named column as well. So what is this actually? So usually when you onboard any identity, so it will have first name, last name, employee type, inactive, all the attributes, right? So whenever you pull the data from the target, let's say it's an Active Directory application. So if you want to pull those information, and if you want to store it in IIQ, you can store it as an account level only. So if you want to populate it to identity level, so identity attributes, like it's a differ like a link and identity basically. So if you want to map it to identity, so what you need to do is you need to create identity mapping and all. There it comes like whenever you search any identity from the target or from the database, you will have columns like ID, name, first name, last name, active. Like these are default columns which provided by SailPoint. And here you need to specify some extended attributes. But by default you will have 10, so you can extend till 20. So again, if you want to create a new column, let's say if you want to create some new column like name based column, you can use this. So again, how you can utilize these things? So once you modify this, you need to go to console and run a schema command. So it will generate a new SQL query for you. This is during fresh installation. If you have already installed IIQ in your system and you need to add a new extended attributes, like let's say if you already installed with a 10 extended attributes and you have to extend it till another 10, like till 20. So uncomment these things, and if you want to create a new column, named column, then again uncomment this or provide a new name and all. Then go to console, use extended schema. So it will create SQL commands or whatever the SQL database you are using, or whatever the database you are using. It will create SQL queries for these extended attributes which you are extending, and you can execute that SQL query from a database. And once you have configured extended attribute, means this is not a mandatory, this is an optional one. So during installation, first you have downloaded the IIQ version. By default you will have some extended attributes. You can use, means if you are working in your local system, these 10 are enough just to understand how it works and all. This is enough. So if in production, maybe the organization would have extended till 20, and some organization uses a named column as well. Then create database and table. Once you have extended or you have created a new columns and all, you can create a database and tables. Like if you don't want to extend anything, you can directly use available scripts within provided table. Like what I was saying is, here this is the installation path. Under WebINF, you can see you have classes, SailPoint and objects. This is where you will have extended objects files. Basically it's a Hibernate files. Then within WebINF we'll have database. So you can see you will have all the you'll have all the required SQL queries, like for MySQL, SQL servers. For all the database, you'll have SQL queries. So you need to execute these things. So I have made separate video on this as well. So you can go to my YouTube channel. If you are a member, you can watch those videos. So then once database is created, means using SQL Workbench, means I have used Workbench, SQL Workbench. Again, it's your choice. You can install any database type you want and execute the provided SQL queries. Then configure database connection, means go to IIQ, means go to the WebINF and then update IIQ property files. Just point it to your configured database, then execute IIQ, means just initialize required files like init, just initialize some basic XMLs like LCM. If you want PAM, you can go for that. If you are utilizing AI, you can again use those things like which are available under the same classes. Here you can see config. We have some initialized like required initialization files like init.xmls, LCM, PAM, AI and all. So you need to import these files basically. Once you have configured or created database and configured database connection, you can go to console and import all those initialization files, then access the IIQ from the browser. So this is the initialize steps. Like basically what I am going through is like high level installation steps. So so before you install, like make sure you have required supported platforms like operating systems. Maybe if you are working in local system, you can go for Windows servers. Again, you can use the Mac or Linux system as well. Database, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, Oracle and IBM database you can go for. Then application server, basically people go for a Tomcat itself. Again, it's your choice again. Then you need to before installing, make sure you have Java, like either OpenJDK or Oracle JDK. So here are the YouTube links which you can use. So once you have installed your IIQ, then you need to set up SSD. Either go for a fresh SSD installation like download and configuration, or you can go for a Git, means you can clone my existing repository as well. So the first step is like basic step is, if you don't want to clone others IIQ project, you can use this option, like just download SSD. Means basically what is SSD? It's a build process, and like it provides a standard build package. Basically, like a build process is critical for ensuring smooth deployment of a configured IIQ environment. Like, so the benefits of this package is like ensures all environment contains same custom object, simplifies integration of a new custom object and Java code, provides a manageable and a set of commands that can easily be automated. So basically it contains some packages like service standard build tools. So it should be configured immediately after installing IIQ. And SSB is a subset of service standard deployment, and it also contains SSF, that is service standard framework, service standard test and service standard performances. So configuration and use of all are documented on Compass and are outside of this scope guide. So here you can see under my repository I have config folders, and within that usually you'll have features, framework, tools and all. So this is how IIQ provides, like SailPoint provides the SSD structure, like go to campus and download the SSD folder, SSD pack or zip file, and unzip it in your local system, and you can push it to Git. Like once you are done with, like we'll go step by step process now. The prerequisites it like installed and configured IIQ or deployment environment, access to SSD download package, then Java and that, like you need to have a Java in your system. Then download the SSB tool package, like unzip it in your local system, add exported object into config folder. So once you have installed or downloaded SSD, right? So under config, usually it will have required object files, and you can use export command. Export command is available in my repository. You can use this, and it will create object level XML files. Then use Perl script to split it into a separate files. So we'll have this as well. Use split Perl command to split it. So you need to get, means how it happens is you already downloaded IIQ IIQ version, right? Like whatever 8.23 or 8.5, whatever the version it is. So download that, then go to console, execute that export command, and then you'll have all the required object level XML files. Then use a Perl command to extract it or split it. Then once you have configured all the required config objects, right, means you have all the separate objects, then go for property files. You'll have property files like IIQ property files, target property files, ignore property files. So IIQ property file, basically it is for environment specific database connectivity details. Like for each environment you will have a separate database. Like if you are using multiple environment, let's say sandbox, unit or testing environment, and production, each environment will have a separate database URL. So just specify those details, like based on your database type, specify the database details here. Then means before 8.4 you had only two databases, that is IIQ database and plugin database. After 8.4 you will have another database called access history. So means you'll be having three separate databases, and you need to specify username and the password for all those three databases. And why they have added new, means again the recommended approach in the production environment or in the organization is like you need to have a separate instance or separate server for access history database. One server for both IIQ database and a plugin database, and another server for access history database. And let's say if your current storage is, means current storage for IIQ database is 10 GB, and you need to go for 30 GB for access history, means you need to specify 30 GB, means they have recommended, or SailPoint recommended 3x of current IIQ storage, means you need to provide that much capacity for access history. And like as I mentioned, you need to update all the property files like IIQ, ignore files, and target property files. Once all this done, specify the servers. So within server property files, you need to specify, okay, like let's say if you have given dev as a name, you need to give it's a SailPoint development, SailPoint test, or localhost, means whatever the environment you have specified here. Like you can see here dev prod, means it's an environment. So that's a target. Basically whenever you are running build, the same key you need to specify, like SailPoint app, SailPoint dev, SailPoint test. This is what you need to pass during running the build. So then common comment for running build. So we have build main, like clean build, then dist and deploy. So a build command runs the entire build process, placing a fully expanded war file in build extract folder and all compiled custom.class files in class like build slash classes. Then main will be default and target runs this target when no target is specified. Example like build without a target is especially build main. Then clean will deletes everything. It will be like fresh build. It is recommended to run the clean target before most deployments, as this ensures a clean working directory. So example is like build clean main, or build clean deploy, or build clean dist. Means these three are examples you can execute. So dist will copies the entire expanded war content to our application server web apps directory. Then deploy will runs entire build process and deploy the expanded war content to your application server web apps directory. So basically what we are doing is like it's a simple process. Like when you create some application, or let's say if you create some Java classes, how you'll do, you'll just execute that and it will create a class file, then it will provide the output. Means when you are building some web apps, let's say if you are using Spring Boot, you will run the build, so it will create it will build the applications, right? Same way here for SailPoint we have SSD. Using build, it will create a war file and it will create some required class files as well. Then like if you don't want to go with SSD, you can go for cloning the existing repository. So I have my IIQ repository in GitHub. You can use this. Means just get a clone, means use this command. It will create SSD folder, or IdentityIQ's -SSD folder. Then you will have a local my repository, means the clone of my GitHub repository will be available in your local system. Means using these two commands you can do that. Then again if you want to create your own local repository, so again you can use these commands. And once you create your local repository, you can push it to your GitHub repository. Means this is how it will look like. Like if you have created your Git account, what you can do is you clone my IIQ repo, then you can push it to your repository as well, means Git repository or GitHub. So these are the commands like create a remote repo, then set the URL, create the branch, add all the files, commit with a message and push it to the main branch. So once you have installed and configured the IIQ repository, the next thing will be like, if you want, you can configure IDE level configuration as well. For that, you need to install IdentityIQ Deployment Accelerator. So it's a plugin for the popular and free IDE Eclipse that provides us several features designed to make configuring and managing IIQ easier. So first download the accelerator package. Then under Eclipse configuration, like in your workbench, navigate to help, install new software, click on archive button and point it to the zip you just downloaded it. So then import workflow importer, so which is available here. You can import that as well. So I think it's available in my repository. If not, I will push it to my GitHub. So then configure a new IdentityIQ project, means whatever the IIQ you have configured, you can point that as well. Otherwise, go to File, New Project, SailPoint, and go for IdentityIQ project. And from there, means if you have downloaded Development Accelerator, what you can do is it will give or you can import required or modified files directly to the SailPoint IIQ. Instead of going to IIQ and importing through global settings, you can use IDE like Eclipse packages or plugins. So here is the reference for community portal. You can utilize that. So once you are done with installing IIQ and configuring your local repository and having IDE ready, so the next thing will be understanding the basic required configuration within IIQ. So all the configuration, like most of the configuration which you do within IIQ comes under a global setting itself. So within global setting, you will have number of options available. That is IdentityIQ configuration and audit configuration, role configuration, login configuration, identity mapping, account mapping, application attribute, Quicklinks, forms, and all. So the first thing which you need to understand is like identity IQ settings. So within identity IQ settings, you will have email settings, work item settings, roles settings, and all. So within a notification setting, so you will have email settings. So usually if you are working in a sandbox environment or local environment, like routing it to file is enough. So basically what notification setting does is like how IAQ need to send email or notification whenever it's required. Let's say a certification is triggered or access request is triggered, and how to notify a requester or an end user. So for that you need to configure email settings. So within notification setting, you have an email settings. Within that you have a notification type, that you have like HTTP or SMTP, redirect to email, redirect to file. So redirect to email in the sense like send an email or notify an end user. Like you have to provide redirection email, like from which email box I can need to send email. Then SMTP, host, port, username and password you need to provide. If it is redirect to email, if it is redirect to email, if it is redirect to file, you just need to provide the file path. Just select redirect to file, then you can give the file name and the address, from address basically. Then you have a notification template options. So for most of the notification items, let's say for reminder notice, for escalation notice, or for work item forwarding or delegation of any items, policy violations, means for most of the notification items, you can provide the notification template or email template for which IIQ can use it. Then you have a work item option, work item settings. So basically what here you'll be doing is like the policies, like days before expiration, and means it's a certification policy thing, like how many like the expiration of the work item, you can specify days like 10 days, 15 days, month, 2 months, years and all. You can provide the number of days like before expiration to send first reminder, between expiration reminder. It's a global level certification specific also. You can do it from a certification option. Then the work item archives, like what are the items you need to archive, like the options available are all the options like access reviews, remediation, delegations, approval items, violations, forms, challenge and all. If you want to archive those items, let's say whenever you submit request, and it will create approval item, right? And once requester approves it, whether you want to store it or archive it within your database or within your system or not. So for that you need to go to global setting, identity setting, under the work item tabs. You need to configure those things. You need to select required items for archiving. Then you have work item rules. like escalation rule, global for work item forwarding rule, and self-certification rule. So let's say the work item is assigned to inactive user. So what action you need to take, whether you need to forward it to default owner or not. So usually how it happens is the use case is like organization or the administrator or IGA team will create some default work groups, escalation work group or support work group, admin work group, like that, and where support team will be part of that work group. Whenever work item or any item, manual item triggered to inactive user, right? So inactive users, or you can write other rules as well. So here we have two work item rules. One is inactive user work item escalation rule. Whenever work item is assigned to inactive user, whom we need to assign, so that you can specify in inactive user work item escalation rule. Then you have a global work item forwarding rule. The same case you can use here as well. So if the work item is assigned to a work group and that work group has no members, 0 members, or if the work group has inactive members, so in those cases you can write some logics within the global work item forwarding rule, so that IIQ will assign it to a new owner or default owner. So those things will happen through a perform maintenance task. So you need to select option there, like for forwarding work items and all. So this is related to work item settings. Then you have roles, like you can configure sunset and sunrise dates. What is sunset and sunrise dates? Let's say if you want to assign when user request any roles, and if you want to configure sunset and sunrise, that is if you want to assign requested role on specific date, and if you want to remove that requested role on specific date, you can go for sunset and sunrise. Basically, whenever you are requesting, there will be option when you submit any role. When user submit any role, he has to specify when this role needs to be removed. That also you can do it in LCM provisioning rule as well. Let's say by default you can give 1 or 2 days, then you can set it in 1 week and all. So those things can be done using enabling sunrise and sunset option within IdentityIQ settings. Then you have a business process for role create, update, and delete. Means you can specify a workflows. So whenever there is a create, update, delete happens on any roles or scheduling role activation and role entitlement assignments. Then there is an additional role options. So you have a role propagations and show user interface option to allow multiple assignments. There are some options. So some organization go for a role propagations. That is whenever a change in any entitlements from target, and after aggregation, IAQ propagate it through to users as well. Let's say some entitlements got removed, or there is some modification happened on target after aggregation. On refresh, like role propagation will be triggered, so that the same provisioning will happen to the user as well. And next will be miscellaneous one. So like within IdentityIQ settings, you have notification setting, work item setting, identities settings, role settings, and password you have, and miscellaneous and privileged account management if you have onboarded a PAM as well. So within miscellaneous, you have object expiration. So whenever identity is refreshed, you can store the previous data as a history. Okay, so for that you need to enable store history option within identity refresh. So whenever that option is checked, and all the previous data, means on daily basis, the data will be stored. Let's say user onboarded today, and tomorrow you have refreshed the identity. Today's data will be stored, and again after some days, if you trigger refresh again, tomorrow's data also stored. Means each day's data will be stored in the database. It's basically it's called as a snapshots. So if you want, means these kind of things will be helpful or used in auditing purpose. So for that means if you want to delete those snapshot after some days, so you can use days before snapshot deletion option. So after 30 days delete those snapshots and all. You can use that, like only data within 30 days will be retained and rest of the things will be removed. And then task deletion means if you want to delete task results, specify those dates there. Certification archived and deletion of archived and all those things can be configured in miscellaneous other object expiration. Then here again you have a syslog settings, provisioning transaction settings. Syslog in the sense whenever there is an error occurs within IIQ, UI error or any error like background errors, you can view those things from debug page syslogs, like syslog object. You will have all the errors. So if you want to delete those things, you can use or if you want to enable syslog, you can use syslog settings, provisioning transaction. All the provisioning transaction within IIQ will be available within IIQ. Means if you want to configure provisioning transaction like for error, success, warning, anything, you can use provisioning transaction. Then you have a plugin settings as well as business process here. Like there are two business process configuration need to be done here, like that is entertainment update and password interceptor. Like password intercept operation within IIQ is like whenever a password change happen through a target and it or within IIQ, it will replicate those changes in other target as well. Like whatever the target you have configured within a password interceptor workflow, it will get replicated there as well. So these are the basic configuration which you can do within IdentityIQ settings under global settings. Then you have audit configuration. So if you want to configure or if you want to set up audit or if you want to audit all the operation or certain operation within IIQ, let's say you want to log lifecycle event audit or events, and if you want to audit whenever there is a change in identity attributes or whenever they change in application roles and all, you can do it within global setting audit configuration. Go to global settings, you will have audit configuration there. So you can go for audit settings. Means usually we will have custom audit configurations as well, and login, logout. These are all general actions. So each audit comes with actions. Like you will have you can configure custom audit configuration. Let's say if you want to add some audit during some workflows, like specifically for a joiner or a lever, means that will come under lifecycle event audit action. But during that time, you need to log some actions that you can create some audit configuration on audit. Means there is a object called audit config. You can add the required custom audit configurations there. And for all these things are most of global settings configuration, I have made a video here, so you can access those things. And like all the configuration will reflect in system configuration file. So that is, you can go to my GitHub repository. Within that you have config. So you have configurations there. So all the configuration which I have mentioned here, like notification setting, that is email setting, work item settings, role settings, will be replicated or will be there in system configuration file. So all these things, like if you want to check notification type, you come here, search for notification. You can check these things, like default from address, as I mentioned, this host, port and all. So this is how it will reflect here. and other things as well. Like you can see notification email notifier type is redirect to file, and other things as well, like role propagation you can see it's set to false. Then just search for work item, related configuration. Default work item duration is 30 days. Delegation templates means, as I mentioned, like all the configuration which we do on front end. Again, basic thing which you need to understand, whatever we do within IIQ front page is logged as XML file from the debug page. Means everything has, or every UI page has its debug page, like application level configuration, or each application has a separate XML files. Means you can go to your debug page and search for application application level configuration, or application level object files, or audit config. As I mentioned, audit config, you can see these are the default one, and if you want to add a new one, you just copy this and add a new required audit configuration. All the things, like when you create a new role which will come under bundle, and when you create a new rule or workflow which will come under workflow and rule, and UI configuration. So when you modify any, or if you want to modify a UI level, you can use UI config file. So whatever changes you make within IIQ, it has its respective XML file in debug page, and the same thing will be stored in database as well. So this is related to IIQ level configuration, and we have notification, means IdentityIQ level setting. Then we have audit configuration. With this, we also have a role configuration, identity mapping, and all. We will see in the coming sessions. So once you understand initial setup and IIQ level configuration, right? So you can go to application onboarding. So basically, like application onboarding, in the sense, like there are several different types of connectors available in IIQ, and connectors are commonly grouped by the way in which they are communicate. Like they are read-only connectors that can only communicate data from external applications, and read-write connectors that can read data from external application and write data out to them. So basically, read data is like there is no provisioning, only getting information from the application, only uses data. And read write, in the sense, get the data, provision as well, like whenever user request or through refresh or any means of provisioning, write the data into target. So connector may be added, moved, or modified in any release, including patch releases. So existing defined application will continue to use the connector specified during their initial creation, and changes to the connector will not affect existing application unless those changes are manually applied to the application definition. So however, the connection registry entry for the connectors does change with new release. The list of available connectors with the current set of available features can be retrieved from connector registry within the debug page. So before you onboard application, you need to know some terminologies, like we have authority application. And authority application is a trusted source of identity data, like users, attributes, status, and all. It is usually a system of record, like HR system, student information system, or contractor DB. And the IdentityIQ uses it to create and update identities in the identity warehouse. So then we have again, authoritative app flow is like a workday. Means just consider an example here. We have workday as a HR system. Flow is like a new hire added in a workday and aggregated into IIQ. IIQ creates a new identity based on policies. IIQ provisions account in AD, email, SAP, and all. So then we have another terminology called native change detection. So NCD is a mechanism in SailPoint IIQ that detects real-time changes directly from authority or managed application. That is like whenever change happens on target after aggregation. So there will be a trigger snapshot and all. I will explain you that later. But whenever there is a modification happen on identity directly on target, and if you want to trigger some event or audit it, or if you want to check those things, you can use native change detection option as well. So both authority application option and native change detection option available in the first page, like basic or details of a connector itself. As soon as you create a new application, right side you will have native change detection and authority application checkbox. So the use case for a native change detection, as I mentioned, like enabled native change detection on Active Directory in SailPoint. So change occurs. Example, user is added to a domain admins in target system. So AD aggregation runs, IIQ captures the change and records the native change detection attribute in trigger snapshot. So identity refresh with process event. If process event is enabled during refresh, IIQ evaluates the native change detection events. So trigger customer flow. You can trigger the customer flow based on the native change detection, like audit logging or notifying email to the owner and all. And before we onboard any application, there are some preliminaries like decide scope and goals. So these are the prerequisites, like business owner, application owner, what access must be governed, like users, accounts, roles, entitlements and all. Then compliance requirements. Then the next thing will be identify app types, like what type of app it is. It's a direct connector like Active Directory or not. Whether it's a JDBC, means database application, SaaS application, on-prem application. It's a web service application, like whether they have the target application built on or using REST APIs or web service application and all. So this determines connector choice. So based on the connectors, let's say if someone comes to you and asks you, there is a requirement that like you need to onboard some application to IIQ, you need to ask them or check what application they are asking for. Means mainframe application, LDAP application, or directory level application like Active Directory, Azure and all. So you need to check the application type first. Then based on the application type, you can decide the connector type. So there are some available connectors in IIQ based on the application type. You can select the type as well. Then collect application details like base URL, endpoints, protocols, like what protocols based on the application type. Then admin or service account credentials with required privileges, and a sample accounts means just to analyze, like before you onboard anything, you need to have some POCs, like if it is web service application, do some POCs on creating the account, getting the accounts and updating the accounts and all. So make sure before you start onboarding application, all the required operations are can be done either through Postman. Means if it is web service application, you can check it on Postman. If it is Active Directory application, you can just you can just check with a team, or you can use PowerShell commands and all. Then again, based on the application, like if it is database application, check all the select operation is working and all. Then the configuration part, like once you are done with these prerequisites, right, like you need to set up the application. So go to application, then add new application, provide the name, owner, connector type, then select authoritative and native change detection and all. Then comes the correlation. So configure correlation rules that determine how application like account or manager links to an identity in the SailPoint. So you can test the correlation with sample accounts to ensure like correct linking and avoid duplicate identity creation. So there are two approaches for correlation, one through UI, one through a rule. So UI in the sense you need to specify identity, IIQ level attribute and application level attribute. So if there is an employee number, so if you want to correlate, means what is correlation basically? So whenever you means there is an identity in IIQ and it already exists like through HR system or some other application like Active Directory and all. And if you are onboarding a new application, make sure that there is a common attribute available available with IIQ and the target system. So sometimes it's email, sometimes it is employee number or enterprise login ID and all. So IIQ needs to check the identity on the target, and it will correlate with existing identity. So then the schema. So how it happens in the correlation, how it happens is like the process means maybe I have explained here, but yeah. So how happens is like IIQ run the aggregation. During aggregation, it will check whether it has an UI level or not. Then it will check rules and all. Then means configuration level, you need to select required connector. Then correlation, you have to go for UI level correlation or rule as well. Then schema, you need to most of the application have a Discover schema. So after configuring the connector, add a necessary account and group attributes. If it is a delimited file, right? In the configuration itself, you need to specify all the columns. Once you specify all the columns in the schema, you can discover the schema. Means you just click on Discover schema, it will discover all the, or it will populate all the required attributes, account level attributes, and same with group level as well. Most of the connector have a Discover schema. Means there is a feature string available. If you want to discover the schema, you can add those feature string as well. So attributes without the managed or entitlement mark are just accounts level attribute. So there are options like you need to select the type of the attribute, string, long, int and all. Then you can select any attribute as a managed or entitlement. So if you mark it as a managed, even if you didn't mark it as entitlement, it will appear in the entitlement catalog. So entitlement adds to identity cube as an entitlement that can be certified. Also makes it available for use in role mining activities. Attribute marked as entitlement can be certified in certification. So they could be used in IT roles, but not so easily. But managed adds to entitlement catalog, where it can be assigned an owner and a display name, description and all, where it can be marked as requestable for requesting purpose and all. Then comes the provisioning policy. So you can add policies for account and group, like operations like create, update, delete and all. So why provisioning policy? When a user requests entitlement or a group access and no account exists on target system, IIQ creates a new account. During this process, IIQ fills in the required account attributes based on the provisioning policy defined for the application. So user request entitlement access, then IIQ check if account exists on target or not. If account does not exist, means target in the sense it will check in within IIQ itself. So usually within IIQ identity warehouse, account it will be there like HR system, web service application, AD and all. If you are trying to submit a request for a user who is not having AD account and you are requesting for AD group, so what IIQ will do is it will say, okay, account does not exist, create an account. Means trigger create operation for this user. To create an operation means whenever IIQ tries to create a plan for create operation, it will populate required attributes based on the provisioning policy defined in application. So populate required account attributes, submit account creation request to the target. So how it happens is, I will show you an example. So within my IIQ Git repository, I have a connector. So I have given some sample and all. In future, I will create a separate video for connectors, means all the connectors. But you can get the basic details for connectors here. So here within config, we have application. Let me for LDAP. So within LDAP, I have provisioning form. This is what I was saying. It's a provisioning policies. So here you can see the form is for create operation, and within the section we have field. You can see here the field is for a DN population. So whenever users submit request for LDAP and that user is not having account in LDAP, so what IIQ will do, it will come here, it will check whether the application has some create policies or not, like provisioning policies or not. Okay, if it is there, it will come here, it will check what are the fields are there with required true. So then what it will do, it will try to populate all the attribute, means it will try to add the values for this attribute, means user plan needs to be created in such a way that in the account request in account request, attribute request will have DN with this value, means value will be populated based on identity attribute UID, which will convert it into lowercase, and then this is the DN. So whenever you want to create an account in LDAP, user needs to have a DN. So here I'm calculating DN based on identity attribute UID, and I'm concatenating users comma company. So it differs from application to application, right? So here I'm just populating UID based on the CNID and concatenating the users OU. Then the password, I'm giving this a default password. Then there is a CN. The CN will be last name comma first name, means again you can see how I am populating is identity. I'm getting the last name and concatenating with a comma and then first name. So this identity is basically identity attribute. So within identity we'll have attributes like first name, last name and all. So again I will show some sample identities. Then a given name we have, again I'm populating with first name, SN with last name, and employee number I'm using get attribute and using employee number. So this is how I'm populating all the attributes, required attributes. And what IIQ will do is IIQ create the plan with account request for application LDAP, then add attributes, all these required attributes. So again, what is provisioning plan and all I will explain later. But high level, IIQ creates the plan with account request for that specific application, then adds all the attributes. That's how, or that's why we required provisioning policies, because whenever user submits for any access request for any application, role, entitlements, anything, if account is not there, what IIQ has to do, or where IIQ has to provide the access, on which account, which identity, right? So for that specific account, like let's say if I submit request for any web service application and I'm not part of that web service application, so first account need to be created there before adding any access. So for that we need some create policies. Same goes for update and delete. So basically we need to add create policies for both groups and accounts. Then we have connector rules, aggregation rules, provisioning rules, and connector specific rules. So connector specific rules is for some web service application or JDBC applications. Connector rules, so the flow is like first connector rules will be executed, then connector rules will provide a map or object. So there is a customization rule, modify attributes if required, means you will get the means here the output will be resource object. The resource object will be passed to customization or aggregation rule. First connector rule will be executed. The flow is like connector rule, aggregation rule during aggregation. So all these rule executed during aggregation basically. So you onboard the application, you will trigger the aggregation task. Aggregation task first, like IIQ, through aggregation task, IIQ will trigger connector rules if it is specified. If there is no connector rules, IIQ will create a resource object. That resource object will be passed to aggregation rule. If there is any rules within aggregation rule, first it will go for customization rule if customization rule is specified. Then it will go to correlation rule, tries to match account, means it will try to correlate the account with existing ID if anything is there. If there is no correlation rule, and if there is a correlation configured in the UI level, it will correlate. If there is no identity exist, it will go for creation, match not found. link account to match found, it will link account to identity. No match found, run creation rule, create new identity. This is the flow actually. So this all happens during aggregation. So this is the high level process for onboarding application. The first thing is you need to get the required prerequisites, then configure the application through selecting the type and all, selecting required options. If it is authoritative, native change is required, then go for it. Then correlation, configuration, schema level, like select all the attributes and all, then provisioning policies, then running the aggregation. So now I will show you a thing, like after all this you need to specify or you need to configure identity mapping. So why identity mapping? So if you want to get all the identity mapping details, you can go to object config. You can check identity level configuration. So each attributes which are specified, or if you want to populate values, let's say there is no identity in within IIQ, and you are onboarding some application as a HR system, and both identity attributes and application level attributes are different. Okay, you need to map it. Let's say if you want to create or if you want to populate first name for any identity, first name, last name, full name and all. So for that you need to map it with identity attribute. Means there will be a first name, last name. By default all these attribute will be there. Okay, like email or first name, last name, display name, all these default attributes will be there. With that you need to configure like how a display name need to be selected, or how it means how IIQ needs to know what is the display name for that identity, how to calculate the display name, right? For that you need to specify the mapping, source mapping. So here you can see first mapping will be contractor system employee, means that's how we are configuring. So for all these attributes, means if you go to, means you have to go to identity mapping. In the identity mapping you'll see some means identity mapping will be available in the global setting. Identity mapping on each identity, select identity attribute, select the attribute, and source mapping you have to source it, like what attributes or what are the attributes available, and you need to specify the applications. Like for first name, specify the first name of your HR system. For last name, specify or point or map last name of HR system or whatever. It's not only HR system, you can point to any application. So those like display name will be calculated based on HR system display name. First name will be calculated on HR system first name. That's how it will map. Like this map happens during identity refresh. You run the aggregation, then you have to go with identity refresh task with refresh attributes. So it will calculate the attributes, or it will map the target level identity attributes value to identity attributes. So I will show you that. Means this happens through identity mapping. So I will give you an example here. There is a sample I have within my repo. So samples, there are two identity samples. Okay, so first one, you can see attribute metadata here. So email will be calculated using HR system. Display name is calculated using contractor system, and manager is contract system employee. This is how it's mapping. So manager value will be calculated using contract system employee. Means when you map or when you configure identity mapping after aggregation and refresh, you will see these things and these values. Display name is or display name calculated or mapped using display name contractor system employee. Here I have contractor system employee, display name calculated within link. So everything is within link. So you have two things. One is links and identity attribute. This is what I was saying. Identity attribute and link level attribute. Okay. This is how we are mapping. So display name of contractor system, or I will be having in the display name, I might be having the name here. You can see the name mapped with display name. Here you can see this is how I am mapping. The display name of identity attribute is calculated based on contractor system name, employee's name. So this is a mapping. And there is another sample. You can see here, without a mapping, I'll just see display name. That's it. I don't be having anything because user is not having contractor system here. So display name is calculated based on the native identity of this application. And whenever you trigger an aggregation, you will see trigger snapshot added to the IIQ. It will have attribute change details. Means this all happens when there is a lifecycle event configured for it. Like you have configured lifecycle events and attribute change is added, and you have selected rule change lifecycle event, and you have configured a create also. So you can see needs create processing. If the account is not present, this attribute is added within trigger snapshot. So if needs create processing is true, whenever you trigger identity refresh with provisioning for this user, lifecycle event will be triggered. Again, within the lifecycle event, you can configure, okay, trigger joiner only if user has HR system application, or again, there are lots of options you can do. But on high level, trigger snapshot means like whenever lifecycle event is triggered, trigger snapshot will be added to the IIQ identity attributes within identity attributes. And if we have configured lifecycle event, all these things like attribute changes, rule, or needs create processing will be added to the trigger snapshot. Trigger snapshot, and it helps in triggering the events for the users. So we have other concepts in application onboarding, that is a feature string. So feature string determines which feature of applications are enabled or disabled. For example, if you remove authenticate in LDAP connector, you can no longer use it for pass-through authentication. If you remove provisioning from a feature string of like example like Active Directory, it will no longer provision account using connector's features. And it's available within IIQ itself. So the feature string is a connector registry, should be list of features that connector can support. So you should never add it to the list for application instance. And feature string entirely depends on the type of application object. If you look for application feature like application.feature enum within doc, Java doc, you'll see those things actually. So I will show you example here. Within config, I have application. If I go for Active Directory, you can see this is the feature string. So I have provisioning, sync provisioning, authenticate, manager, lookup, search, and all. So these are the feature string which I can use it for. There are many actually. Basically what it define is, so these features can be utilized by IIQ for this application. And if you go for some connectors like you can see I have direct no provisioning. So this is delimiter application. So I might not see a provisioning and all. So these are the features like these features can be utilized by the IIQ for any operations. And the attributes. So you need to know some of the attributes like I have create account time lag attribute, like time in seconds to wait after creating an account and before calling get account. So default will be 20 seconds. So why we need or why you can use or where you can use create account time lag is in cases where there is a latency of account creation in the target application. So again, the same approach, when you submit request for any user who is not present in target, I can go for account creation, right? And it will do a single account aggregation. So at that time, if it does within the 10-20 seconds and due to latency, IIQ might not able to pull the account from the target. In those cases, you can add a create account time lag so that IIQ waits for provided period of time. Then it will try to get or do a single account aggregation, and it will try to provision the groups and all. Then we have a maximum read timeout, time in seconds to wait for getting response from the REST call. So this is the sample max read timeout. You have to provide the value 200, then retry count and retrieval error. So retrievable is a global attribute. So it's an entry is a list of string through which the connector searches when it receives a message from a managed application. So whenever you get an error doing any provisioning, means whenever IIQ gets any error, let's say IQ got server is not operational or object not found error, means let's say IIQ try to provision something and it got error like object not found. So if it is present within retrievable error, it will means based on the retry count, it will retry the operation. Means maybe after another retry, it might provision, right? So you can utilize these two things like retrievable errors and max retry count, which indicates number of time to the operations and all. So I have some basic operation like basic or common connectors like delimited file, JDBC. Again, as I mentioned, I have provided required details or required samples for delimited file, JDBC and all. If you want to onboard some JDBC applications, right? First, create the DB within your local system, use Workbench and create the database, create admin user, like provide privileges for that account, means create the DB and create a new account and provide privileges. Then use that DB and create the table like first name, last name and all. You can create the table for the user, then insert some test users and you can onboard the JDBC application in your local system as well. So again, I have made how to create LDAP in the local system and LDAP server. Use that server to onboard LDAP application. Then creating Active Directory application will be difficult in the local system. If you have virtual machine, you can go for use or you can create Active Directory servers. And web service application, one of my video got removed like a web service example, but I have a basic kind of. But in future, I will try to create a web service application like I'm uploading key clock videos on daily basis or on weekly basis, right? So I will utilize key clock as a web service application and I will try to onboard it to IIQ. We can use key clock as a web service application as well. So these are the basic details which you need to know before onboarding application. The next thing will be IIQ provisioning. So provisioning capabilities help companies manage system access for their personnel. Then provisioning request can be created and processed in several ways in IIQ based on the needs and configuration of installation. In many cases, modification to access or entitlements you request in IIQ can be automatically reflected in the associated native applications. So high level, the provisioning requests are processed as follows, like creation of plan, then is sent to broker, like provisioning broker, then expansion of items, then account creation if required, and again if user is part of requested item, filter it out, then a pathway to the execution. So how it works is, first step is provisioning request initialization. So via a user request or role assignment, policy or a lifecycle event. So the first user submit request, or let's say through a certification or lifecycle event or refresh driven provisioning. So the first step is initiation of request. So the request created as a provisioning plan. Plan will be created which contains account request and attribute request with its operation. Then a provisioning broker processes the plan, which evaluates requirement splits into provisioned plans as per application. Then expansion phase. So it expands the plan into multiple things. That is like it resolves the roles, and IIQ checks whether user is present in the target system within IIQ itself. Like when aggregation happens, let's say if user is not part of the requested items, and during once user submit the request during expansion phase, it will check whether accounts need to be created for requested item. Whenever user submit request or any means, when any means the provision request initiated, right? IIQ checks whether account is part of the request. If not, IIQ creates a plan for create account as well. Then filtering phase in the sense like requested item already, means user is already part of that requested item or not. So if it is, then it will filter it out, like removing redundant request and all. Then determining the provisioning pathway, like whether it's direct connector provisioning or whether it has to go for a manual items or ticketing systems. Then final provisioning execution, like creator modifying the accounts and assigning required or requested items. So the whole things works around provisioning plan itself is an object which represents the provisioning request. It contains a list of requested changes to an identity, and the plan is in one object which contain information about what to be provisioned on the target on which application. So it contains for which identity, and it can hold multiple account requests. Each account request may contain multiple attribute requests. So basically this defines which identity the request is created for and what application account needs to be provisioned in and what all attributes need to be provisioned. So here is a simple sample here. So first you need to have identity object, then create the plan using the provisioning plan class, then set the identity to the plan, then create account request. You can have a multiple account request each per application. So here first thing is set the operation, whether it's create, modify, delete, disable, enable and all. It's a account request operation. Then set native identity and application. So native identity for that particular required application. Let's say if it is Active Directory, most of the time the native identity will be distinguished name itself. Then add required attribute request. So this is the optional, but if you want to add or update any identity attributes, and if you want to add entitlements, you can go for attribute request. So if it is entitlement or if it is a multi-valued attribute, you need to set operation as add. If it is a single attribute, single valued attribute, you can go for set itself. So here name in the sense like attribute name, whatever you have given the schema, application schema. So if it is entitlement or a group, or you can go for group, or in case of Active Directory it will be member of, then value will be group DN or whatever the group value. Then once you create the account request, add it to the plan. So you can record provisioning request in multiple ways. These are the following activities or actions, like through certifications, policy violation, identity refresh driven assignments, lifecycle manager request, lifecycle event driven provisioning, either through lifecycle events or through a refresh. Means through refresh you have an option called provisioning assignment. Through that also we can provision the request, or you can create the provisioning request. Then policy violation and certification through remediation and all. So provisioning request creates a provisioning plan, and that provisioning brokers can analyze and process. That's what I have explained here. So when you onboard any application after aggregation, through aggregation, if you have checked the option called promote managed attribute, so IIQ will create a managed attribute for all the attributes which are set as managed and entitlement. Then a user can submit request for those managed attributes. Then you can create roles as well within IIQ. So what is roles in IIQ? A role is a collection of entitlements or other roles that enables an identity to access the resources and to perform certain operation within organization. So we have certain types here. So that is organization role, business role, IT role and entitlement role. And custom roles also can be created. So what is organization role? So it is designed for organizing the role hierarchy in IIQ UI. Then do not provide any functions other than creating nesting structures in role modeler. Then you have a business role, identifying the job function or title or other attributes by which user can be grouped together in a into a business role tagged as assigned role. Then IIQ IT role defines like which allows multiple entitlements from one or more application to be grouped together into a single role. IT role should be encapsulate groups of related entitlements that are shared by one or more business roles. So on high level, so organization role is a role within IIQ. which groups the other roles. Like if you want to create multiple business role, you can group it to one organization role. The same way you can group IT role to one organization role as well. So I will show you the hierarchy as well. So let's say if you want to create IGA role, like for IIQ, a governance administrative team. So let's say you have IGA team, and this is organization role. Here you can see IGA team is organization role, and IGA team IT is another organization role. So within that you have a business roles called IGA engineering team and IGA testing team. Likewise, you have IT role as well, that is IGA engineering team IT and IGA in testing team IT. So this is tagged to engineering team, and testing team IT is tagged to IGA testing team. So here this is a business role, that is IGA engineering team maps to IT role, that is IGA engineering team. Then IGA testing team maps to IT role, IGA testing team. So this is the example. So this is how you can organize the things. Like you can have multiple organization role, and you can tag each business role to those organization role. So you can see the hierarchy here. Organization role, IGA team, then IGA engineering team is the business role, and IGA testing team is another business role. And you can have another organization role, that is IGA team IT, which will have, or it will contain multiple IT roles. So this is a hierarchy actually. Birthright role, then this is for birthright role, like birthright role in the sense, as soon as user onboarded to the IIQ, if you want to assign some birthright access, you can go for a birthright role as well. Like birthright role can be leveraged to define birthright access by using the selector option, enabling automated assignments of entitlement based on a role-based access or attribute-based condition. I will show you the example as well. So you can see here birthright role is the organization role. In the previous case, IGA role is the organization role. And within birthright role, organization role, we have employee birthright, and IT role is employee birthright IT. So the selection rule, you can have two cases, like one is using rule. So here is a selector. It's a XML which you see from the debug page, or which you can see from the debug page. So referencing a rule here. So based on the rule or logic which is defined within this rule, IIQ assign the roles. Then attribute based access control, here employee type, based on the employee type. Employee means if user is employee, the birthright role will be assigned. No need to request. These are the birthright roles, means you need to make it as a non-selectable. Then whenever user is onboarded, based on the identity refresh, there are multiple options need to be selected. Then during the refresh, the role will be assigned to the user. So I will show you some examples here. First thing is plan. I have a immediate termination workflow here. So here you can see I'm just terminating the user. Like first you need to create the plan. Like first thing, basic thing is get the identity object. That identity object you need to pass it to the plan. Then create a multiple account request. So I'm just iterating through the user's links. If user has LDAP, just create the LDAP account request, then HR system, and I'm just passing operation as disable here. One is modify. For one, I'm adding attribute request. For other is just disabling the account. Then add all the account requests. Here I'm creating multiple account requests. That's why I have created a list here, array list. Then adding all the account request or each account request to that array list. Then that list I'm adding it to set account request through set account request method. So then the plan will be passed to initialization stage and then provisioning stage. So let me show you roles as well. So I have a business role. So you can see this is an organization role. So it won't contain anything. It's just for maintaining hierarchy. Then this business role is tagged in sample, what I can say, sample role 1. This has account selector. You can ignore user. Yes. So this is the user has sample role, and you can see inheritance or inherit business role. This is the organization role. Then the required will be IT role. So in IIQ you have a required role and permitted role. If you add any role as a required role, as soon as user request, once it is approved, that those roles will be added to the user. If it is permitted during request, user has to select it manually. So let's say you select user role, and if you request for any or user request for a user role, then and it has some permitted role, what IIQ will do is it will prompt you or prompt users to select those permitted role if required, and required roles are assigned after approval. So you can see here I'm adding IT role. Like usually this is the hierarchy how I have shown you here, right? Like IT role. So how you tag IT role to a business role is adding it as a required role. So you have IT role here, which will have profiles and added as items. Like you have one application here that is contract system employee, and I have another HR system. So both the profiles or entitlements added as a profile. Then I have another IT role called IT role organization role. This is tagged here. You can see. This is what I was saying. So you can have a one organization role or multiple. Here I'm just showing IT role as organization role, which is added in user IT role, and business role organization role is added in user business role. Then here I have two birthright roles. One is employee birthright role, where the identity selector is employee assignment rule. So based on this rule, the employee birthright role is assigned, and it has employee birthright IT role. Then I have a contract birthright IT contract birthright role, which has a selector and like based on attributes. If the employee type is contractor, if employee type or employee status is active, then this role, this contractor birthright role will be assigned, and it has IT role as well, which will have profiles. So basically IT role will have entitlements, and that IT role will be tagged to business role or birthright roles. Basically like on high level, it's a business role itself. So this is about the provisioning within IIQ through roles. So let's see some essential concepts or modules in IIQ. So the first will be task. In IIQ, task represents a background job that runs operations such as importing data, recalculating identities, or executing rules. So task can be scheduled via task scheduler or run on demand basis. Then again partitioned across servers for scalability. So to run the task or to execute or view the task, you can use a setup option. Within that, you have a task, and like task page will be opened. Within that, like we have three tabs, that is task, where the default task or executed task will be available. Then you have a scheduled task. Again, what are the tasks or got scheduled, right? You can view from a scheduled task tab. Then we have a task results, where the executed task results can be viewed. Then if you want to create a new task, or if you want to use a existing template, what you can do is like by default IIQ provides some set of task. So to create a new task, you can click a new task from the top right. So we have some set of tasks available, like account aggregation, account group aggregation, and many more. So frequently used tasks are account aggregation and account group aggregation. Then identity identity refresh task. Then system maintenance task for basically we call it as a perform maintenance task, and the template name is system maintenance. And again, we have many more like running rule and others. So in this video, here I will just concentrate on aggregation, refresh, perform maintenance task, and rule execution task. So what is aggregation basically? So aggregation is like pulling accounts or entertainment data from connected applications into IIQ and updates the identity where so IIQ knows what access each user has. So to create a new aggregation task, again go to her new task option, click on new task, and you have two options, that is account aggregation and account group aggregation. So account aggregation is for pulling identity details from the target, and account group is for pulling entitlement details from the target. So when you select a new task and aggregation, the new aggregation task will be opened, and you have to provide the name, and then on which server, if you want to run it on specify host, you can specify that, and other email configuration, like if you want to trigger email notification on failure, so you can enable email notification. So instead of going through each attribute, I will highlight only frequently used or important attributes or options within aggregation task. So the first and foremost, you need to select the application or like on which application you need to scan. Basically, aggregation in the scanning or reconciliation the target data into IIQ, or getting basically getting information into IIQ. And you have options like, if you want to enable a delta aggregation, delta in the sense like enable the connector to aggregate only those accounts that have changed since the last aggregation. So this requires support by connector as well. So partition and delta aggregation required connector configuration, or only few connectors supports these things. So as I mentioned, like first thing, you need to enable delta aggregation if your connector supports. Then we have other option or other attribute called detect deleted accounts. So let's say if you have identity within IIQ, but from the target it got deleted, and if you want to take action on IIQ level data, you can select this, like whenever you do aggregation, if any account is not present in target, it will be deleted from the IIQ. And you can specify maximum number of accounts that can be flagged for deletion after account aggregation as well. Then we have a promote managed attribute. So when enabled, any values for entitlement or permission encountered while running. Like, so let's say if user is part of any group, and within application schema, if you configured any attribute as managed and entitlement, so those attributes will be promoted as managed attribute. Let's say in case of Active Directory, if you specify within connectors or in application, like usually it is member of attribute. If you configure member of attribute as a managed and entitlement, during aggregation, if you select a promote managed attribute option, users member of attribute will be promoted in the managed attribute. Means those are all considered as a managed attributes, and user can submit for request as well in the future. And enable partitioning option, like it enables partitioning for the task which you have configured. So it will be executed in multiple threads. Like let's say if you have a multiple servers or host, and if you have configured max thread within that, so whatever the threads you have configured on those specified account, IIQ will trigger the aggregation. Means basically, let's say if you have two hosts and if you have configured 4 threads, so you will have 8 tasks running parallelly. Task in the sense like it will let's say you from the target you have 1000 users, it will divide by 8, and for each thread it will have around 250 or something like that based on the count. Then the next task will be refresh. Again, I have explained account aggregation task, and you have similar options within account group aggregation as well. You can go for delta aggregation. You can use detect deleted groups as well. Then the next thing will be a refresh. Again, within new task tab, you have identity refresh template. You can click on that, Basically, what is identity refresh? Like, recalculates identity attributes, entitlement policy, and role assignments. Like, often needed after aggregation. Like, if you have authority application ran, or if you have configured any authority application, make sure that you add an identity refresh task after it. Like, add sequentially. First task will be authority application aggregation task, then identity refresh task. And again, once all the other application aggregation run, account and account group aggregation run, and configure the again to refresh. Basically, how organization go is like usually they will have two identity refresh tasks. One for attributes, roles, promoting managers and all. Other task is to trigger lifecycle events. I will explain the attribute as well. So once you go for a new task, a new identity refresh task using the template, you have to provide the name. Then the same options, like you can configure it to execute in a specific host. And the next thing is like the options. The options are like attribute optional filter. If you want to execute based on certain condition or filter, or if you want to specify only certain users, you can use these options. Like, let's say if you want to refresh users only on certain department locations or whatever the attribute it is, you can add the filters. Or let's say if you want to trigger refresh for certain users, you can go like this. Either you can use the ID or the name equals whatever the name you have, like employee number or login ID or first name and last name, whatever it is, you can use this option. Then you, the important options are like refresh identity attributes. So as I explained earlier, let's say in the you are aggregating the account within IIQ. What happens is within link you will have the identity details. So if you want to populate those values to identity level attributes, right, you need to select this option. That is like, I will show you some sample here, which I already explained, but again I will show you here. I have a sample identity here's like here is the two identity samples. So these are identity attributes. When you run a refresh, these identity attributes will get populated. So how it happens is, you can see here there is a metadata here. So this metadata defines like whatever you have configured in identity mapping. So that is like email attribute will be calculated based on HR system email or mail, and display name calculated based on contractor system employee attribute name. So this is how we are mapped. So within identity mapping, we have mapped that like get the name from contractor system and map it to display name. That is display name of identity attribute. So here during identity attribute, what happens is you will have these means once aggregation is completed, the link will be tagged to the user, and that link will have some attributes like CN description, whatever it is. So all these values will be populated or calculated and assigned to identity attribute. Means this is what I meant actually. So the title attribute of identity calculated based on contractor system employee title. That is, here you have a contractor system. You can see here contractor system application, and this is the link. And this means the title value will be calculated based on contractor system title. So that's where you can see user will have vendor analyst. So that's how it got calculated, and that happens through identity refresh attribute option. So when you run an identity refresh task, those identity attribute value will be populated based on identity mapping. Then refresh entitlement, refresh all the entitlement values for all the links. Then the same thing, like you will have a manager configuration as well in the identity mapping, and again based on the configuration, means if you have selected refresh manager status, the manager's attribute will be populated or calculated. So in the identity mapping, you will have means manager type will be identity there. So you will see manager as an identity type itself instead of attribute, a manager attribute is identity type basically. So let's see other. So I don't have here, but when you go to the debug page, you can see, or from the UI as well, basically that's a hyperlink. The manager attribute is a hyperlink basically. So then refresh roles and promote entitlements. So when you check this option, based on the calculation, like if some of the roles, birthright roles, or how we configure is like we will have some birthright roles, and we have added, or we will add selector rules there. Means assign based on the identity attributes like active, person type, employee type, and all. Based on the type, the roles, birthright roles will be assigned to the user. So those things can also be configured, and during refresh, those birthright attribute will be assigned to the user through this option itself. Then provisioning assignment. So now a birthright role is assigned to the user, or any role which are assigned to the user, right? So if those entitlements tagged to, or any entitlements tagged to the assigned roles are not provisioned to the user using provisioning assignment, those entitlement will get provisioned. Synchronize attribute. Synchronize attribute in the sense, now with aggregation you will pull the data, and for some attribute, if you want to synchronize with target, for example, you have onboarded user and IIQ calculates email, or IIQ generates some email and telephone number, whatever it is, within IIQ. Then if you want to push those attributes like email, phone number, and whatever the ID which you have created within IIQ, right? If you want to synchronize or push those identity attributes details to the target, you can use synchronize attribute. That can be done through identity mapping again. So in the identity mapping, you have two mapping, that is source mapping and target mapping. Source mapping will map the identity attribute from target to IIQ, and target mapping will maps identity IQ's attribute to target attribute. Then maintain identity history, and if you want to maintain history, like IIQ will create snapshot for each identity refresh. You can do that as well using synchronize attribute. Then then process events. So all this option can be configured in one identity refresh. Then this process event can be configured in separate event, because the first refresh task will refresh the attributes, map required attributes, then add assigned or add the roles, then create histories and synchronize the attributes. But process event task will trigger lifecycle events basically. Again, during aggregation, if you have configured any lifecycle event, trigger snapshot will be created, and it will have attribute change, needs create processing attribute and all. So if this is true and joiner is configured, a joiner will be triggered through a process lifecycle event checked. Then we have a perform maintenance task. Basically, it's called as housekeeping. Basically, like it handles housekeeping operation to keep IIQ clean and performant. Like it includes purging old task results, cleaning completed or expired work items, trimming logs and audit data, clearing temporary objects, or changing certification phase, executing background task. Like whatever the lifecycle event task got triggered in identity refresh task, most of the workflows will have backgrounding in it, or a waiting period. So after wait period is completed, usually perform maintenance task is scheduled every 5 minutes or max to max 15 minutes. So every 5 minutes perform maintenance task will be triggered, and it will check all the waiting period. If the time reaches, it will execute those, or it will launch the background task and all. Again, it comes under system maintenance template. So you can you can go for new task, system maintenance, then you will have a perform maintenance task. The options available are like prune identity snapshot, prune task results, and also before I have explained you, right, like in the global settings, miscellaneous or work item tab, we can configure when the archive needs to be deleted, when it need to go for archiving and all, or deleting a snapshot. Like if you want to delete whatever the history created for any user, that's a snapshot basically. Whatever the snapshot created for the user, it will be there in the database for some time, and if you want to delete those things, you can configure it in global settings, and if the history reaches the that time, whatever the deadline, it will prune after executing the perform maintenance task. If it meets the deadline, so those snapshot will be deleted. Same with task results and provisioning transaction as well. So task results, snapshot, like provisioning transaction can be configured, like deletion of these objects can be configured in global settings, and pruning can be done through perform maintenance task. And finishing certification, changing certification phases, or again pruning some 6 logs and executing background workflow events and all, you can use perform maintenance task. Then the last task will be like rule execution. So execute specific SailPoint rule as a background task. So useful for running custom logic. So if you want to update bulk users update or bulk users identity, you can use or you can create a rule, like you can pass the list of identities, or you can add the file path, and it will execute the rule defined in the task. And like for a bulk operation, you can use rule execution task. Like if you want to clear some corrupted request work items or any objects, if you want to delete bulk items, again you can use console. But if you want multiple queries and all, if you want to execute some queries and then take action, you can use task run rule execution. Then I will show you some templates, like all the tasks which are created, or if you want to create any new task, you can use a task definition, and a task schedule task will be available under task schedule. So within task definition, here I have aggregation task sample. So here are the option which I mentioned. Delta aggregation is false here, you can set it to true. Then enable partition, you can set it to true. And then you can see check deleted, and that's what I mentioned. Like if you want to delete some or delete users if it is not present in target, you can use this. Then other option is like no optimize re-aggregation, promote managed attribute. As I mentioned, if you want to promote any attribute as a managed attribute, and it needs to be configured in application as well, like in the application for any attribute, if it is managed and entitlement, or if it is managed and the promote manage attribute is configured during aggregation, though those attribute is promoted in the manage, or it will be available in manage attribute. So this is aggregation task. Same, you will have identity refresh task as well with all the attributes defined here. Then the rule execution task also you can see. So this is identity refresh task. As I mentioned, you have options like these are all inputs basically. Yeah. Again, all the options will be available here, like refreshing entitlements, refreshing based on provided filters and all. So the next thing which I want to show you guys is like custom run rule task. And again, reports also defined as a task definition itself. So I have a task called update user attribute, and you can see here the rule which I have specified is update user attribute. You have to specify the a rule name, and it will have signature, input, and return item, like whatever you want to return from the rule. You can specify it here. And file path, as I mentioned, I will be providing a file path here. In the file In the file, I will provide the list of identities, and in the rule, I'll get each users, and I will calculate and update the identity. So this is all about task in IIQ. So let's see what is debug page. So debug page is an internal IIQ tool used by administrator and developer to view, test, troubleshoot configuration objects and system behavior. So the purpose of debug page is like it helps to inspect and manage IIQ object like identity, role, task, application, whatever the things which you view it from UI can be edited or can be modified from debug page. So it helps to run and test rules, workflows, and forms. Then view log messages and troubleshoot provisioning or aggregation issues. So most of the times you can go to debug page and search for syslog. So you'll get the error logs there. So perform quick search and queries against the IIQ database. Means if you want to view identities, attributes, or any objects information, you can go to debug page. You can view those things. To access debug page, typically you use the same URL. Like you can see here, the base URL / whatever the name you have for your web apps application under your application server. Then debug, and means if you just type debug, it will take you to debug.jsp. And it requires admin or sufficient capabilities or permissions. So the common uses, as I mentioned, like searching object, run rules, and about page, reload logger. So if you want to get your system information like application information, you can go to debug page. There you will see option like setting option. Click on that. You will have about page and other details like thread details. If you want to reload the logger, you can use those. Means when you required updating logger, or when you want to get the about page, right? Like when you submit request with SailPoint team or vendor, you need to provide your system details. So for that, you need to get that about page details, and you need to send it to them. And if they provide any loggers need to be added, like if you want to add any loggers, so you need to go to the server where you have installed your application. There you need to update the logger. After that, you need to reload it. Like otherwise, usually a system will reload for every 5 minutes. If you want to force a reload, you can reload off your logger. You can use reload logger from debug page as well. So again, debug page is a powerful admin tool and should be restricted to our trusted users. Like changes made through debug may directly impact your system behavior, and never ever delete objects through debug page. So then we have a console. So the IIQ console is a command line interface provided with SailPoint IIQ that allows administrator to interact directly with the application. So it's mainly used for administration or troubleshooting and executing tasks that are not always possible through the web UI. So if you want to access console, again from either Linux command line tool or PowerShell, we need to go to this path, like installation path /webinf and bin, then /IIQ console-j. So if you have to type this command, J is just to get the history, like previous executed or last executed command. And this means -j, you have to use it for Unix based system. For Windows, you have a default history and all. So in case if you want to run any rule or delete any objects, you might need to use console, because as I mentioned, never ever delete objects through debug page. So if you want to delete any objects, please use console itself. So the common commands we use within console are like exporting object, export command, export, and whatever the object you want, you can you have to give those object details. Then like if you want to get the information of any commands, like just type export and enter. It will give you an information like what are the options you can go with this command. Then rule, if you want to run any rule, just type rule space and provide the rule name. And if it has space, you have to give within quotes itself. Then notify, if you want to test your email box and all, you can use notify. Then connector debug. So connector debug helps you to debug the connector basically. So if you want to get or if you want to see whether you're able to retrieve data from connector, what you can do is you can go to console and type connector debug, and you'll get the information like whether you want to get a single object, get all the object. If you want to get a single account, you just need to give connector debug application name, get account details, and encrypt. If you want to encrypt any strings, you need to use encrypt command. So because if you want to store all the passwords right in your property files, right, like you have to encrypt it. So don't provide password directly in the property files. Then source, it runs commands from a script file. So if you want to delete multiple files, or if you want to execute multiple commands in the console, what you can do is you can type everything in a single text file. Like what you can do is delete task results, and any task results you can give, and again delete. If you want to delete multiple objects, what you can do is you can type everything in a single, or add everything in a single text file, and point that to the source command, like source, and point that file. So it will execute all the comments added in the text file. Then delete command helps to delete the object. And if you want to redirect the output to a text file or any files, right, you can use greater than symbol. So just get whatever the identity. So here Rahul Dravid information will be stored into .xml file. Then we have groups. So we have group, work group, population, roles. So all are different and it has its own features. So group is a set of identities created automatically based on values of a single identity attribute used to filter identities included in task, certification, or report. So within setup option, you have a drop down for a group, and within group you have a 3 tab. One is group, one is population, and another one is work group. So group can be calculated based on a user's or identity's attribute. So for that, you need to go to identity mapping, and you have to enable group factory for any user. So first, let's say if you want to get a list of a group of users for a particular manager, or if you want to group identity based on managers or based on a city, location, whatever it is. So for that identity attribute, go to identity mapping for manager attribute or city attribute, select group factory. So what happens is you can go to group and then calculate the group of users for certain cities and managers. So that you can do. It's another features provided by SailPoint to group identity based on the identity attributes. Then you have a work group. So a work group is a collection of IIQ identities grouped for a workflow or governance purpose. So commonly used in approval process or certifications and a policy violation. So example here is like, let's say if you want to create a ownership for any certification, and you can create a work group like access review work group, where all manager responsible for access certification are included. So like this is like thing like who should approve or review something, like put them into a work group. So it's within IIQ. Again, setup, the third tab you have work group. Just click on new work group, and you can create any work group. Like let's say if you want to create a support team work group, like IGA support, and add people to it. And basically where we use this is in case of role owners. Instead of adding role ownership to a single person, you can add it to a work group, where a list of users will be a part of that role owner. So again, if you want to certify something, you can add it to a work group as well. There are other cases, like instead of sending or instead of assigning ownership to a single person, you can add it to a work group. And you have population. Again, population are set of identities generated from queries on the advanced analytics page, and can be based on multiple criteria such as North America people, non-manager, accounting department employees and all. So you have a searching tool within IIQ, that is advanced analytics. Inside advanced analytics you have a multiple option as well, like if you want to search based on identities, attributes, or if you want to search access request items, audits, syslogs, there are multiple options. So within identity option you have other features, like if you want to search a user who are active or inactive, or depending upon person type or employee type, and based on the multiple criterias, the search means IIQ will provide you a searched or filter based identities. For those identities you can create or you can group those identities and using like population features. So in the search option itself you have you can create a population for those or for that particular filter, and the same population can be used for certification purpose or other purpose as well. So instead of having group filter, you can use population also. Population works on multiple filtering. In advanced analytics, when you search something, you can for any search you can create a population. And as I mentioned, it will helps in target based certification. Using target based certification, you can add population. So if you want to create a certification based on multiple criteria of a user or anything, you can use population in that case. So that's how a group, work group and population differs. Like group creation happens through a group factory option within identity mapping. Work group you have to create manually and you need to add a users. Population happens based on the searching criteria within advanced analytics. Then capabilities, like capabilities is an administrative privilege inside IIQ that controls what a user can do within the IIQ application. So again, capabilities can be assigned through work group as well. So when you create a work group, there is an option for capabilities as well. So you can select capabilities for any work group you create. You can create a empty work group without any capabilities, and you can create a work group with capabilities as well. So if you want to give admin level access within IIQ, you need capabilities. If you want to provide normal user access, means by default all the users will have normal user access just to request items within IIQ. If you want to give extended features to reporting purpose or executing some task or certification, you can create a capabilities within IIQ and add it to a work group, or you can create a work group, add capabilities to that work group. So in that case, instead of adding single capabilities, you can add a work group itself. So whoever part of that work group will get the capabilities within IIQ. All these are within IIQ itself, like it don't reflect in target. So then comes access request work item. So access request is a process by which a user or their manager or an admin request access, such as role access, entitlement access, and application access, like for themselves or another users as well. So you can create a request for others or yourself. So it's a core part of identity governance and administration, which enables secure provisioning with proper approvals and policy enforcement. So here is a big breakdown. So IIQ homepage, you can go to manage user access. User can request access for themselves or others, and then search for a user, request the access, search for identity, and you can request required access. You can go for filter as well. So if you want to request an item for a particular application based entitlements, you can search for the application. You'll get all the entitlement based on filtered application. Then access request module. So then once item is selected, you can just submit the request. So here what happens is like you can add the policies as well. In the back end, IIQ will calculate those policies. Sometimes some access or some roles require validations as well. Like let's say if you are submitting, if user is submitting some admin role, IIQ can check, or you can add the validation saying whether he has an admin account or not. Like whether he has required permissions to submit those admin roles or not. Those kind of validation you can add. Like if user is not part of some application, you can mention, or you can add a policy saying user is not present in this target application, please get it created first and then submit the request. Those kind of policy violation you can add. Again, if you want to restrict users to submitting multiple items within same application, so you can create policy, and also it's a segregation of duties. So manage user access can be restricted to allow only specific items to be requested, or like either add or remove. You can submit add request or remove request for a user. So if you want to restrict any user to submit an item within IIQ, you can also do that using dynamic scope, and you can create a dynamic scope and add it to the quick link. In access request, there is quick link access is based on a dynamic scope. You can go to global settings. There you have a quick link configuration. So for each quick link, or again for each dynamic scope, there will be a quick link assigned for it. Let's say for everyone, access request tab is allowed for everyone. So how you can restrict is for access request. You can set like, okay, if user is part of this work group, then don't allow him to submit request, or if user is part of this work group, allow him to submit a specific request. Those kind of things you can do, and that is specified under you can go to quick link. I'll show you immediate, is an example here. So this is a quick link. You have a quick link option called user maintenance here. So I will show you that as well. I have not added it currently. I will add it, and I will show you in next videos, like how we can add dynamic scope to the users and all. I will show you in coming videos. Then access request flow, user submit request, like select item, add justification and submits. So IIQ checks for policy violation. As I mentioned, it will go for policy violation check. If conflicts exist, the request may be blocked or routed for exceptional approval. Then approval workflow routed to a manager, role application, or role or application owners for or custom defined approvers, or multi-level approvals can be configured. Then once it is approved, it will go for provisioning. Then completion and notification. Once provisioning is done, if in case manual work item required, IIQ will create a manual action. And once request is provisioned and manual work item is closed, user will get a notification. Either requester or based on the notification configuration, people will get, end user will get notifications. Then we have work item to assign task and approvals generated by workflows. So basically the approval item or review item, access review items, or manual actions are considered as a work item. So if any application is not provisioning, or provisioning is not enabled for any application, IIQ will create a work item. IIQ will consider it as an unmanaged plan. So when a plan is created, it will check, as I mentioned during expansion and the other pathways, right? Like it will check whether the item or whatever the requested item is provisioned or direct connector application provision, or it's a manual work item. So if it is a manual work item, or if it is not provisioning enabled application items, so IIQ will consider it as an unmanaged plan, and IIQ will create a work item for those things. And when request is submitted, if there is any approval configured for any items, again the approval item will be created, and that also considered as a work item. So that you can access through a second tab. There will be a work item. So to view access request, you have the same option, like view access request. Below that you have a work item option, and within work item you can filter the items. Once a request is approved or processed, like manual action is completed, it will be archived. So whenever IIQ generates an approval, recommendation, and manual work item, you can view the items. Again, you can view work items through my work inbox, where they can review, approve, reject, or complete the task. So once a task is completed, it is archived. So to it helps you to keep track completed or expired work items for audit and compliance purpose. And after work item is finished, it is moved into archive stage. Like users and auditors can review archived work items, saying like who approved it, who completed it, and all. That also helps in future auditing purpose. So that the general flow is like a user goes for manage user access, user submit role or entitlement request. Then IIQ creates an access request, and if there is any approval is configured, so IIQ will create a work item which is approval item, and it grants or revokes apply to identity. It provision the items, means in case manual work item required, it will create a work item again. And once both approval item and manual work item is completed, it will be archived and it will move to work item archive folder or work item archive object or database basically. So then we have email template. The email template XML consists of an elements with a set of attributes and nested elements that specify the basic components of email message, such as sender, subject, message body, and all. So IIQ email templates are processed through an open source engine called Apache Velocity. Velocity is a Java-based template engine that allows web page designer to reference methods defined in Java code. IIQ email templates makes use of Velocity template language to dynamically specify the email messages, so contents, and generate custom email message specific to a recipient, work item, and action involved. So basically, if you want to trigger any email, you need to add email template for all the operations. Maybe if you want to trigger a notification after completion of any items, or in case of your custom workflows, like let's say you have customized some joiner workflow. Once account is created, if you want to send an email to a manager, you can create an email template. Again, how it looks like is like we have a separate email template. Separate email template folder for each, means by default you will have some out of the box email template. You can check those things. I will show you some example here. Yeah, this is how it looks. So the body will be created based on the HTML format, whatever the email body you are sending. So that needs to be incorporated within HTML itself. So you have a subject line here, then signature, means whenever you want to trigger any email, if you want to pass some information, let's say identity information, work item details, and all, you can send like this as an input. Here the input is identity request and identity name. So here you can see what we are doing. Means again, there is a syntax for this. Like if you want to set anything, first when you get an identity name and identity request, right, first you need to get the context here. Means in the future videos I will show you how to get the data within IIQ and how to use email template and all. But again, high level, you can see first you need to get the SailPoint context. Based on the SailPoint context, you need to use get object by name and pass the class name, that is identity request here, and I'm passing identity request ID, and you will get the identity request. Here it says identity request. You can use identity request ID here. So we can get the identity request for any past identity request ID. Then again, if you want to get the identity, here you can see I'm sending identity name. So based on again same SailPoint context, get object by name. From name, that is whatever the class it is, you can copy the same line for any object. So you just need to change the class name. Means if you want to get application, if you want to get a rule, workflow, whatever it is, you just need to change this object or class name and pass your information. Here I'm just calculating the or getting the identity object based on the identity name. Here you need to use hash set, means the value will set here. Again, based on the dollar symbol, you can utilize those values within HTML object. Here you can see user identity.displayable name. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting identity's name. Here requester like IIQ identity request dot requester display name. So I'm just getting requester name from the identity request ID which I have passed. So basically these kind of things will be used in access request or customizing email template, and everything works within HTML, and as I mentioned, it works through Apache Velocity open source engine basically. So I have some email templates here. You can go through that. As I mentioned, I will be explaining those things in future videos. So let's see another module in SailPoint, that is policy. So policy violation occurs in IIQ when users access breaks a defined compliance or security rule. So policies in IIQ are created to enforce business rules, security standards, and regulatory requirements like SOX or GDPR. So basically what is policy is whenever users submit for any request, means it's a one way actually. So when users submit for any request, IIQ means if you have configured calculate policy schema within workflow, whatever the LCM workflow you have configured, if you have set a variable for policy check, IIQ will check the policy violations, like what are the policy configured within the organization, right? Like IIQ application, it will check all those things, whether user has required application accounts or is there any conflict with other items. So let's say if you are submitting user access and it is conflicting with admin level access, so in that case IIQ will give user a policy violation. So those policy violation you have to configure, or policy need to be configured through IIQ itself. Go to setup, you have a policy there, open it and create a new policy. So how you can create policy, like you can have a multiple entitlements, means add multiple entitlements, and you can say that okay, if user request for some XYZ entitlement or access, user should not have other XYZ entitlement or access. So I can give an example here. So within config folder I have a policy, and I have 3 samples here: role SOD, LDAP account, and entitlement SOD. SOD in the sense like segregation of duties. Let's consider entitlement SOD here. So it's a simple example. You can add a description for your policy and owner as well. So the constraint here, as I mentioned, you will have, or what I have configured is if user has admin access, he should not have user access on a particular application like contract system, employee or application. If user has user, he should not submit admin. If user has admin, he should not submit user. So when user has both, through refresh task, IIQ will give up or will create policy violation for the user. And also while submitting a request, so let's say if user already has user and if your user is trying to submit admin, it will throw error saying you already have, or user already have user access. Before submitting this, either remove this or you can't submit the request. That's how it is. And this is like entitlement policy, and I have a role as well. So if user has this, it should not have this, like that, like left bundle, right bundle will be there. So whatever the access user has on left, he should not have the access which are present in the right. So it's just conflicting the things, like before submitting request, IIQ will, or before creating request, IIQ will check the conflicts. So how it works is, the logic or the background flow is like, first IIQ will run the previous, so like before submitting request, what all the access user had, and whatever the request you are submitting. Let's say you are submitting account entitlement or admin account access. IIQ will try to provision. It's like a hypothetical condition. So first it will check the current access, and it will also check what happens if user submits the selected items. So IIQ will calculate both, like current one after submission one. So and it will compare, is there any difference? If there is any difference, and it is conflicting the access, IIQ will throw the error. So usually policy violation or policy check happens twice. Like in the background, you won't see that. IIQ calculates current access, and IIQ calculates the access after submitting or after provisioning the submitted request. So provisioned access and without provisioned access or current access. So compare both and check, is there any conflict. If there is any conflict, create a policy violation. So same like I have created advanced policy here. So you can create a rule as well. So within the rule, you can check whether user has some XYZ access. Like if user has that access, through the policy violation like that. And let's say before submitting request, like let's say if user is requesting for some domain access, make sure whether user has a domain account for that particular application. I can give an example for admin account. So if a user is trying to submit some admin account access or entitlements, we can write a rule so that you can check whether user already have some admin accounts or not. So that you can do it through a rule. So what I am doing here is like I have created a rule like require LDAP account. I'm just giving an example. So if user is submitting some LDAP entitlements or LDAP access, make sure user is already having LDAP account. If user is not having LDAP account, IIQ will throw an error. So this rule also I have added here. You can check. Again, this is just a sample. Just check, get the LDAP account using Identity Service API. I'm just checking whether user has LDAP link or not. If user is not having, like has account, and if it is LDAP request, through the error saying requires LDAP account. So this policy rule can be tagged to the policy which you are creating. This is how policy works basically. Then other module is report. Reports in IIQ provides a visibility into identities, accounts, entitlements, again policy violations, certifications, and system activities. So if you want to get some identity based information like what entitlement he has, when he has submitted request and all, like identity level report, or if you want to get some access request report or certification report, you can go to a report module and get the report. Means IIQ has provided some out-of-the-box reports which provides some quite a good details. So you can utilize those things. If you want, you can modify using those templates as well. So they are essential for audit, compliance, and operational monitoring. So again, as a SailPoint is a governance tool, it helps to audit the identity access or the requesting details and all. So for auditing purpose, reporting helps in greater purpose actually. So the customizable like can be filtered by identity attributes or entitlements or dates. Exportable results can be exported through a CSV, PDF, or Excel format. Scheduled, it can be scheduled, like you can schedule on daily basis. Let's say if you want to get a manual work item created for certain period or for a last 7 days or last 1 month, you can schedule those things. It's secure, like access to reports is controlled via capabilities. So only authorized user can run sensitive reports. And use cases are like audit evidence, like prove compliance with SOX, GDPR, or HIPAA. Then access monitoring task, privileged accounts or orphan accounts. Policy enforcement, like monitor violence and remediation progress. Operational insights, like analyze system performance and provisioning outcomes. So here is the structure of a report on high level. So we'll have attributes. Within that, we have live report. And so consider report like report generating as SQL query, like select name, first name, last name from identity database where identity name is 123. So in this case, you will have a from, right? So that from or where condition which you add, like from will be like you'll be adding it in the filter itself. Again, where condition also can be added, like query parameters or using join, query, or operational rules, you can build filters like what identity you required or what object you required, timeline, or any specific condition you can add, like get the cancelled request or get the expired request, manual work items and all. You can add filter and the select queries, like select first name, last name and all is like column. So what column you want. Then report form, like if you want to custom those forms, you can do it, like the input forms, like let's say if you want to get identity details for a specific application, or if you want to get access request for certain time period. So those are comes under input form, like you can input the start date and end date, you can provide the application details, or you can provide like identity means if you want to create some identity attribute based report, you can add the forms or fields within the form and point it to the report. And report summary, how you want to get the report, and chart. So here you have a filter option within data source, filter, Java and SQL. So 3 options we have within that. Within filter we have a query parameters like report arguments, default value. You can add default value, hard-coded value, and different operations like equal, greater than and all for dates. And value script, you can also add a value script or query scripts to calculate the type, like based on the user input. If you want to generate some logic or if you want to create some logic, you can build that. And we have a join, query and options rule within filter. And you can create a Java class as well, and SQL queries, like a SQL query. You can create a SQL query like get details from identity request and work item. You can add joins and all, like get all the reports, all the request from identity request table for provided filters, like where start date or created date, and you can provide the created date and the completed date and all. So based on that, you can create a report or generate a reports. That's all comes under data source. Then as I mentioned, we have columns and report forms. So I can show you some out of the box reports itself. So all the reports will be available under task definition. So let me show you. Install default reports. You can see within attributes. That's what I was saying. Just consider this, like within attributes you have live report. So you can see live report. Then within that live report you have data source, and you have filter. Within filter you will have query parameters, or you can add join, query or options rule. So here within attributes, live report, data source, I have join here, and again query parameters. So you can have both join and parameters. So query parameters, and join. So you can see both the parameters and join is there. So this is filtering the input values or the multiple values. So here the default sort will be on application name, value or identity name, and the object type is entitlement. So it's like select something from identity entitlement, and where condition and all will be this, like join and query parameters. So application name and aggregated connected. So you can add multiple filters. So again you can see we have columns. Columns are the like select account group name, account group display name, account group type name, application and identity. This is how it's work, like select these columns from identity entitlement and based on query parameters. And here within signature you have inputs. So based on this input, like based on the application providing the inputs, IIQ will create a data or a report. Then again we have multiple reports here. You can see the data source, and the object type here is application items. And query parameters are like type, tags, certification groups, application creation date, and all. And similar way, we have other reports, archive reports. These are all can see identity role reports. Here you can see like we have query here. So get all assigned or means get the roles, either it is assigned or detected roles. It's another certification report based on query parameters. And I can show you role membership report. You can see the object type will be bundle here, and the type is Java, and adding query parameters as well. User account attributes. You can see some column script here and query parameters. You see I have users by application report. It's again a simple query parameter report, and work item archive report. Here I have added the custom one, so you can calculate a report or calculate the conditions based on query options as well, whether or based on owner name and all. So you can calculate, you can pass the query options. So it's another kind of options you can see within query parameters. You can add or within the filter you can add query options as well. You can see the parameter is query script. Using these two, you can use or create or generate the values. This is about a report in IIQ. So the next important concept in SailPoint IIQ is certification. Certification in IIQ is a governance process that ensures users have only the access they need, and it provides a structured way to review and validate entitlements, roles, and account access for compliance and security purposes. So we have certain types in certification, that is a targeted, manager, application owner, entitlement owner. We have advanced, role membership, role composition, account group permissions, and account group membership types. So all the types of certification has phases, like what happens when you trigger the certification and how it moves forward and all. So basically the certification is, let's say you have triggered a manager certification. So a manager might have let's say 10 reportees. So whenever you trigger a manager certification for the 10 users, right, or a manager who has 10 reportees, right, a manager will receive a access review item for each members. Like let's say a member has some 10 entitlement which contains admin, user level access and all. So he has to certify it, like whether the user or the reportee requires that access or not. If it requires, he can approve it. If not, he can revoke it. So this is the process or high level certification process in IIQ. And each certification item will have options within it, like when you create a new certification, like you have to go to setup, then click on certification, and top right you will have new certification, and each has the steps, that is a basic, lifecycle, notifications, behavior, and advanced. And each step has its own operations or specification. So within steps you will have specific options saying like what is the basic properties, like what to certify, who will be the recipient, and when to certify, like if you can trigger immediately, you can schedule it, and frequency as well. Then the certification contents. So if you want to include a certain application, you can include there. Then include access, like you want accounts or entitlements, then you can include additional entitlements as well. You can include roles, you can include target permissions, and certify accounts with no entitlements as well. And if you want to include policy violation, you can include that as well. These are the basic things which a reviewer will see on like it's a name and what to certify and all you can configure. Then you have a life cycle in the sense like as I mentioned, we have phases like staging, remediation, or staging, active, remediation, challenge phase and all. So you can configure there. I will explain each stages, but within life cycle you can configure like whether you want to go for staging period, and if you want to go for activation period. Like active period is must, and you have to give the time period like or a duration, like how long you need to keep certification as active. Then comes remediation period and challenge phase. If you want to enable challenge phase, you can enable. There will be a checkbox for each phases. Then notification. So how you need to trigger notification. As soon as certification is generated, you want to trigger initial notification, or if you want to suppress it, and how often you have to send it means that will be available under like notify before certification expire. Then you have to select like when you need to send the reminder, when you need to send the escalation and all. Then revocation, reminder, escalation means the third step or third option will have the notification settings. Then you have a behavior and advanced. Inside behavior, you will have options about certification presentation and behavior. So which like if you want to prompt for sign off, there are options like based on the behavior and decision. So enable line item delegation, enable delegate identity delegation and all. And if you want to go for bulk actions, you can select those options. Then you have advanced, like if you want to configure rules, like you will have a pre-delegation rule, you will have exclusion rules, sign-off rules. If you want to add those things, you can do it under advanced settings. So let's see the phases within certification. So first stage, as I mentioned, it's a initiation stage. So generating the certification. So as soon as you trigger the certification, like either through schedule certification or just running the certification, will generate the certification. It will be a initiation stage. Then goes for staging. Means if you enabled staging phase within a life cycle, so there is an option called enable staging period. If you enable it, it will go, mean certification will go for like staging phase or staging period before activation. So if selected, administrator can examine certification before notification is triggered. So that is like if you want to check all the settings are correct, and it's just examining the certification before pushing it to activation stage, or before activating the certification. If you want to check the configuration and settings, you can go for staging things. Then notifying the certifier. The certifier will be notified it's an initial notification saying access review is or certification is generated and you have items for reviewing. Then activation stage, like certifier need to take the actions. He will get the work items, access review work item. He had to take the actions. Then challenge phase. Again, if required, you can enable this challenge phase in the sense like let's say owner took some revoke action on some items for a user, and user can raise a concern or dispute the revocation, saying I need this access and can you please review it. And again, our owner will get those items and he can take action based on that. And this is again optional, like staging and a challenge will be optional phases. Then you have remediation phases, like whatever the action owner has taken, the items will go for provisioning. Like if it is approved, and the items will be remained with the user or retained with the user, and if it is revoked, access will be removed. If it is manual action, if it is a manual provisioning application, manual work item will be triggered. If it is auto provisioning, access will be removed or revoked immediately. Then sign off, like owner can sign off saying everything is done. So on each phases, you can have a rule. Like I can give you some examples on rules. Let's say during challenge or during remediation phase, you want to take some action based on the remediation. So you want to audit something based on the action, like there will be a action field or action value you will get. Like if it is remediation, you can revoke the user's access, you can disable the account, or you can send email, whatever, like the logic you can build within remediation rule. Again, as I mentioned, there will be a rule for each phases. You like to end the rules or end the period, you have a rule. Again, when you enable each phases, right, like first thing I can say, you have active period enter rule. So if you want to, again, based on the scenarios, based on the cases, you can have the rule. Most of the times, the frequently used or most used rules within certification are like pre-delegation rule and exclusion rule. So pre-delegation and exclusion in the sense, like if you want to exclude some items from the user, let's say, or if you want to exclude a user itself, you can use exclusion rule. So usually we have options called like exclude inactive accounts. You can add that condition as well within exclusion rule. And if you want to exclude some users based on the attributes or based on the level, you can go for it. And again, pre-delegation rule. So if you want to delegate items to another owner, let's say if the item or the identity or entity is VP or a higher level or a senior level, and you want to certify the senior level people to a certain people, like means you can create a work group and you can route all the senior level or senior users items to a work group. So that you can do using pre-delegation rule. And there are again certain items or certain conditions within all these rules. I will be explaining in the future. So as this is a beginner level video, so I will be just explaining higher level things. Then if you want to process the revokes immediately, no need no need to wait for a sign off rule, you can use a process revoke immediately option within lifecycle itself. And you have sign off rule as well. Like within sign off rule, what you can do is you can assign the items or review items to another owner or next level manager. So those like there will be a condition or there will be a case where you need to route or you need to create items after one level of approval. So you can assign or you can create a certification for multiple levels based on the sign-offs. So there you will have history. Based on the history, you can consider whether you need to route it for a next level manager or next level work groups and all. That you can do it on sign-off rule. So the process is let's say manager approves and you want to trigger the certification to manager's manager. You can use sign-off rule for it. So this is all about certification in SailPoint IIQ. So the next concept will be Quicklinks. So Quicklinks in IIQ are the shortcut links are displayed on IIQ dashboard, that is homepage, and they provide easy access to common actions and requests and improving user experience. You can have Quicklink either on homepage, the dashboard, or again within the hamburger or the menu option, like you will have some Quicklinks. So within assigned task, you will have approvals, forms, violations, which are assigned to the user. Again, you have manage user, manage access quick link, then manage identity quick link, and like again you can create a custom quick links as well. So we have concepts called dynamic scopes within IIQ. I will show you in a while. And the purpose of quick links is like simplifying navigation for end user and allow one-click access to frequently used features. So you have an option called a Quicklinks configuration within global settings. Go to settings option, click on global settings. Within that, you will have Quicklinks populations. So to configure Quicklinks, you have to go for the Quicklinks population option itself. So there you will see a dynamic scope. So whatever you are seeing within the Quicklinks populations are dynamic scope. You will have everyone, you will have admins, and again you can create your own custom Quicklinks or custom dynamic scope as well. So within dynamic scope means, let's say you select everyone, you will have a quick links within that. Again, you have configuration. The first tab will be configuration, next tab will be quick links. So within configuration tab, you will have a name, then the membership, like who can view those things, and who can member request for. So let's say if you want to restrict items or restrict that quick link, right, you can use who can member request for and all. Like when you go to manage user access, and if you want to restrict some items for some people, like based on the access or based on some condition, if you want to restrict items visibility, you can use configuration option. You have who can member request for and what can member request for. Those things you can go for. And again, two option. So if you want to restrict a member to request, or if you want to restrict members to removal as well, you can configure. For both, you have like you can do it for application roles and entitlements. There you have to add a rule. So rule saying, like, let's say if an entitlement has some attributes, or role has some custom attributes, or let's say if it is not requestable, or if you want to restrict inactive users, means showing inactive users on the manager access, you can use these options. Within roles and entitlements, you have to add the rule. So rule will contain, like, okay, if the item, means you have to build the query options there. If the user is inactive, don't show it, or don't show it in the manage user access options. So then you can go for a quick links tab, and then you can select like what quick links need to be tagged to the dynamic scope. So that again, I can show you an example. Within config, means you can go to debug page and search for dynamic scope as well. Means I have two examples here, everyone and test one. So here this is the default dynamic scope where SailPoint provides you. You can see here like manage attribute, request control, role request control. So for both, I have a rule. So rule I have added. I can say like if the user is inactive user, or based on the condition, you can have, or you can restrict the items where user can request. And you can see here it's all is true. Then I have a test a dynamic scope one. Again, inclusion will be there. Again, exclusion will be there. Inclusion will be there. Like whom you need to exclude and who can include and all. You can configure, like you can configure this in UI as well. And as I mentioned, like population request, like who can submit request and all. Let's select a rule also you can add. Like so if you go to global settings and quick population, you will see these things. The first option is details. The next option will be membership, and who can request for and all. Within who can request, you have options like whether you want to add these selectors and all, you can do that. And again, within membership, you can add the permissions, like if you want to allow all, if you want to add the populations, filters, scripts, match list, you can go for it. Then again, I have quick link, I think. Yeah. So I have immediate termination quick link. So here you can see action. So there will be an action for each quick links within IIQ. So here you can see it's a workflow. So the action will be workflow. That is, as soon as you click on that card or quick link, it will trigger a workflow basically. Then again, you have a multiple quick links as well, category like action, links and all within IIQ page itself. Means you there are items like if you want to launch some links within IIQ, you can go for that as well. And there will be a category. So manage within IIQ, right? You will have a category like whether it's a task one or whether it's a manage one. You can categorize it. So other option you can see here. The category is custom here. So you have custom manage based on the category. It will be visible within IIQ. The message key and the name which you want to display or show on a UI level. Again, the attributes force allows self one. The launcher name means if you want to pass all the information from Quicklink to the workflow, you can use this. Here you can see workflow name. So as soon as this Quicklink is clicked, it will launch the workflow. And you can see the option like who can view this Quicklink. Here is the dynamic scope and it says everyone. So everyone can view this. And in other case, immediate termination, you can see the dynamic scope is user maintenance. So only who are part of the dynamic scope user maintenance can view that. Again, dynamic scope, you can add capabilities and all within dynamic scope. That again we'll see in a future. So this is all about Quicklink in IIQ. Then we have a form. So form in IIQ is a configurable user interface component that collects input from users during workflows, task, requests, or approval. So forms make interaction in IIQ dynamic, user-friendly, and customizable. So the purpose of forms are like capture user inputs during access request or certification, approvals, workflows, or also in reports, and provide customized UI fields instead of hard-coded values. Then ensure business process collects the right data for provisioning or governance. So where you can use the form, so you can use it under access request to request roles, entitlements, or applications, or for approvals like manager or application owner approval with comments. Then identity management, like correct information during onboarding or update. Then custom workflows, so gather parameters before execution of workflows. The features are like you have types of fields, like you can have a text boxes, drop down, checkbox, and date pickers as well. Then dynamic behavior, like fields can be shown or hidden based on conditions. Validation, you can validate the fields based on input provided, and you can use the form multiple times. Like say you can create one form, you can use it in multiple workflows or multiple ways. Like let's say you create a form for application, you can use it in multiple applications as well. So basically, like let's say you have created or you are onboarding some application, there will be a provisioning form, you can use that. And if you want to create a role which needs user inputs, so you can add a provisioning form within the role as well, or that is bundle. Then if you want to get some user inputs during a report, that also you can, like for that also you can create a form. And within form you have certain items, that is attributes. So map of name value pairs that influence the form renderer. Then button, you have like next, previous, cancel and all. Okay, next thing will be the section. So section within form is the whole the main thing within the form. So it has a subdivision, like you have a field within section, and field are like, so each field, like let's say you are creating a form and you need first name, last name, or the business justification for submitting request, or let's say you are creating custom workflow and you want to terminate a user. For that you need to get the user's details, right? Like you need first name, or you need ID, employee number for the user who needs a termination, all right. So for that you need to create a form and you need to provide the field. So field will have again attributes. You can add the script to calculate the values. You can add validation script, and the type of field, like if it is string, identity, means if you want to list the identities, you can go identity type. If you want to list application, you can go application type. Like you can add that type as well. If it is string, it will be a readable or editable field, and you can again manage, like if you want to create a field as read only, you can go for that as well. for each thing you will have attributes. I will show that in a while. Again, scripts. So if you want to calculate values based on the previous input in the form, so you can go for that as well. And if you want to get a list of values from the custom file, you can use that. And again, you can calculate things like when you are showing a form to the user, you can add filters and all. You can add filter string in the attribute itself, or you can create query options and create some list and assign it to the field. You have allowed value also, like you can add a list of values. Then validation script, like based on the user input, if you want to calculate something, you can do that as well. So I will show you some examples. So here is service account owner as such. So I have multiple fields here. So as I mentioned, the first thing is form. Within that you will have attributes, section and button. So button action is refresh and back. And a section, within section you can name the section as well, and you can see fields. So here you can see each field has a display name, filter string, then again display type, whether you want to have a combo box, then help key, the name of the field, and this is important actually. So if you want to retrieve value of the field, you can use the name. So get the form and get field of the form, and means you can get the field using this name itself, and whether the field is required or not. You can add the field as required so that user can't submit without providing the value for this field. Then the type of the field, whether it's a string or like identity, whatever the object we have within IIQ, you can add that as a type as well. So you can see, you can reference the means if you want to let's say you want to select, or if you want to create a field in such a way that user can select within that, like drop down values or not. If you want to add a hard-coded value also, you can use a rule reference, like you can reference the rule here and you can calculate the value for that field based on the rule. So you can see I have rule as well, which will calculate the value based on the certain conditions. And I can show other forms as well. This is just a simple or it's a complicated form here. Like for a beginners, it might take time to understand these things. But in simple way, I can go to forms. I can show some simple forms here. Most of these are like default forms which is provided by IIQ itself. You can see the type Boolean here for all the field. It's a Boolean. Let me see whether I have some forms. So this is what I was saying. I have created a quick link, and that quick link terminates the user based on the selection. So here you can see you can hide the field as well. So there is an option called or attribute called dynamic and postback. So that is like whenever you set postback as true, as soon as user provides input to the field, the form will refresh. And on refresh, if you want to calculate some fields, you can use dynamic. You are saying that this field is a dynamic, and based on other inputs value, this field might change. This is what you are saying. So postback in the sense, you are refreshing the if you want to refresh the page on user input, you can use a postback. And dynamic in the sense, let's say you have two fields. User provides or user selects the entitlements in one field, and based on that entitlement, if you want to show the value or the owner of that field or owner of the selected entitlements, you can use two fields. In that field, you can add dynamic as true, and first field you can add it as a postback, so that users provide entitlement and it will refresh the page, and you can calculate the owner in second field. And again, you can see if you want to hide the field, so the cases will be like there will be a multiple fields and you want to show some field and hide some field based on the inputs. So that also you can do that, like using attribute called hidden. And if you want to use the hidden option, you want to use, like, you have to select postback as true and dynamic as true, because whenever you give a postback as true, the page will refresh and it will calculate a hidden again, whether you need to hide the form based on the value provided in one field. So you can do those things. Then the type, you can see it's identity here and it's required. So identity, in the sense, it will list all the identities. And you can use filter string. So if you want to filter inactive users, or if you want to filter a certain users based on the attribute, you can use filter string attribute within the field itself. And let me see, I can show you allowed values or not. Allowed value definition, you have allowed values and allowed value definition. So allowed values is for a static list, and allowed value definition is like you can add the script here. So to calculate the values means you can see here for this field, it's creating a list of certain things. Again, you can create a list through script if you use allowed value definition. And if you use allowed values, you need to add the static list itself. Location report. So you can use allowed values and you can use static list here. So list, you can see static, these are static values. And these forms are from a report actually. So you can go to report, you can see you can add forms there as well. Yeah, this is about forms and quick link in IIQ. So the next thing will be a workflow. So you also call it as a business process. So in IIQ, workflow is an engine that orchestrates approvals, provisioning, notifications, branching logic, and custom scripts for things like access request, joiner, mover, lever, events, or identity update, policy violations, and all. So every workflow has type. You have LCR provisioning, identity update, identity lifecycle, role modeler, and all, which controls where and how it can be triggered in the product. So choosing the correct type is crucial because IIQ only offers workflows of the matching type in the configuration screen that wire them to a system events. So typical place you'll see workflows are like lifecycle manager, like create, update, registration, manage password, provisioning, and all. Then lifecycle events for all the lifecycle events like joiner, mover, lever, or any custom events. Then identity update, identity refresh, policy violation, role actions, scheduling, role activation, and all. And how you can create or modify roles. So the first option or basic option is business process editor, UI itself. It's a built-in designer to create, edit workflows, or define steps and transition, and design forms, set input variables, and all. So you'll usually it's a flow. You'll see simple flow there, like from where to where it's getting transition, what it is doing, what are the steps it has, and all. And then copy an existing or default workflow, like you can clone through my GitHub repository, or you can clone existing default out of the box workflow, and you can use that. Then you have author or edit the XML directly. You can go to a debug page and you can edit it. Then you can import via a UI or console. Like use global settings, import from file for IIQ, and for the IIQ console, import command you can use. So basically this is how you can create the workflow. And important objects within workflows are, you have a workflow object, workflow case object, workflow context object, and a task result object. So workflow defines the workflow structure and steps involved in the workflow processing. Then case represents the workflow in progress. So whenever a workflow is triggered, either it's a LCM provisioning or custom workflows or lifecycle events, there will be a workflow case object created for each. So once the workflow is completed, workflow case will be deleted, right? So if you want to delete any workflows, you have to delete workflow case itself, because if you delete task result directly, or if means basically a workflow case will have or linked with work item which is created and task results. So you can go to task results, you can see there will be a task result for each workflow. For joiner, there will be a task results. So for lifecycle provisioning or any LCM activities, there will be a lifecycle task, or whatever the task results will be there for each workflow which is triggered through IIQ. And if you want, as I mentioned, if you want to delete the task results for any workflow triggered, right, or either it is custom or in any workflow, you need to delete workflow case itself. Then you have a workflow context which tracks the launch time information. The workflow maintains as it advances through a workflow case. Means if you want to store some information within the workflow, you can add that to the workflow context. It acts as a map. So it's a map within the, or it's a, what I can say is a data structure within workflow. So if you want to get information from one step to another step, you can use workflow context or workflow object. Then at the task results, it's records the completion status of a task, or in the case like workflow contained within the workflow case. So this is about important workflow object in IIQ or a business process. So the key concepts you'll use a lot, like a workflow type. So determines where and how a workflow can be attached and what library feature it sees. And whenever you create a workflow, make sure what workflow you are creating, and so assign the specific or specified type for it. Then the libraries, you can expose helper Java methods. Like if you want to trigger email, like send email is there, or if you want to compile the project, for each you'll have libraries. I will show you in a while. Then the steps. So basically workflow is a series of steps. So let's say if you want to show message, so you will means how you want to create the workflow is, first it should have a start. Then let's say you will create a custom step called show message, then end. So this is how you can create a workflow. So it will have a series of steps, and each steps has a transition. So what or where it need to transit after this step, that you need to specify in the transition. So I will show you again in the while. Then you can add forms for the steps. This is how you will see the approval items. So each approval item or work item you see, those are all forms actually, and you need to specify within the approval tag. So you have a sub process, and you can create a sub process like each LCM provisioning, like the default LCM provisioning workflow has some sub process, and that is like in the steps you can refer that sub process workflow. So instead of having logics within that step, right, you can launch the new or sub process. And transient workflows, as I mentioned, it's just transit to next workflows. Then testing and validation, like you can validate the workflows either triggering that, or you can use console as well. So before going into variables, I will show the workflow required workflow things. So again, within config, you will have a workflow folder. So these are the workflows. I will start with LCM provisioning itself, or I don't know, I have sample workflow, or let me see example. Lifecycle events, simple scheduled. Okay, let's go with LCM provisioning itself. This is the default lifecycle or workflow which you will see. So the basic, here you can see it has configuration form. You can ignore that for now. And as I mentioned, libraries, we are including identity role, policies, LCM, and batch request. And it has name. Then you can see there is a type for it. And it is LCM provisioning. So each workflow, I can go for another. And you can see it's LCM identity. Again, identity provisioning. And the type is step library. Then I have custom workflow. It's identity lifecycle. And you will have sub-process as well. I can show you that. It's a sub-process. So what is sub-process and what are these things we'll see. LCM provisioning. So consider this as a parent workflow. So the parent workflow will launch or might launch some sub-process. You can see it here. You can see we are referencing the workflow here. So as soon as the workflow reaches this stage or this step, right, it will launch this workflow and it will pass all these arguments. So on high level, for your understanding, how you can consider workflow as a program and each steps as a methods. So that like whenever means it start with a main method, and main method will call some parent or child methods, or it can call classes as well, right? So in the main method, you will have global variables. So this is what these global variables are. So means if you want to execute some program, right, you will have some variable, and let's say if you want to just to print the values, so you need to specify some values, like let's say a string, a name, and you need to print that name. So on those cases, you will create a variable, right? It's a global variable, and there will be a local variable as well. So global variable is for like within workflow, the global variables are, you can use all these variables on all these steps or anywhere in this workflow. So if you want to use any variables, right, like I can show you here. So there is a variable called a plan. Okay. So if you want to use the plan, or if you want to pass the plan within or use within this step, you need to define it in variable tag, like define with a variable tag. So you can see variable, initializer, interactive, and input is true. This is input variable, and you can initialize it, or you can calculate these values within workflow. So that's first thing. You need to have at least some basic variables. Then you need to define, if you want, you can define rule libraries as well. So if you want to call methods, instead of having methods within the workflow, you can use a rule library, and within rule library you can define those methods. So if you want, or if you are using some recursive methods, like the method which will be called multiple times, so you can create a rule library and add those methods in the rule library. So the simple process you can see here, the first step is start, then transition is initialize. So that is like once workflow is launched, it will come here, then it will go to initialize step. Then from initialize, you can see these are the arguments. So some are hard coded and some are getting from the variable itself. You can see here it's referencing the global variable. Then all these arguments are passed to identity request initialize workflow. Then the return type is there, like these are the return items which the parent LCM provisioning is expecting. Then from here the transition will be create ticket. Again you can you can do, or the workflow can, or the steps can be transition based on the condition. So if you want to restrict something, let's say here you can see I have four transition. So if end on manual provisioning work item is true, if you have selected this or if you have configured this, it will end if this variable is true. Again, if you want to restrict based on certain conditions, like if the plan is empty, don't move to the next step. So you can do all those things here. Like let's say I can show you some examples in lifecycle events. I have a joiner lifecycle event. So here I'm in the first condition, like my first step will be start. In start, I am checking assign UID. So that is like assign new UID only if that UID is empty. Otherwise, go to the next step. So how it works is like if the value from the script is true, then only it will transition to it will go to assign UID step. Otherwise, it will go to next build plan. Again, you can add some logic here. So build plan only it has some UID. Otherwise, terminate the workflow. You can do all those things. I can show you that as well. Based on certain conditions, you can move from one step to other step. I have a lever here. I have not added any condition for transition, but yeah. So I will show you again in detail how workflow things. I will make separate video for it, but on high level. So if you want to restrict a step transition, you can use the script within transition, so that like before moving into the next step, you can calculate the certain things. If the condition is not matched, you can avoid moving into the step. So here in the simple way, you can see I have a start step, then I'm resetting the password for the user. This is basically lever lifecycle event. So in this workflow, in the reset step, I'm just resetting the password, so that I'm just making sure user can't log in again. Then after resetting the password, I'm just building the plan. So I have a step called build plan, and each step, if you want, you can add a result variable as well. So if you are returning something, you need to specify it here, and also you have to add return statement as well. So here basically what I am doing, like I'm getting the identity, I'm checking whether user has certain links or not. Based on that links, I'm creating account request and adding those account requests to the plan. Then I have a initialize step. So these are out of the box step. You can see identity request, initialize, then provisioning. These are the out of the box steps, and these are sub process basically. So the first thing what we saw is like workflow type. Each workflow will have type, that is sub process, lifecycle event, LCM provisioning and all. Then libraries. So each workflow can have libraries. If required, you can add those things. So LCM provisioning has some libraries which I shown you before. You can see this has some libraries. Then what is the step? Like each workflow will have multiple steps. Transition, like if you want to manage the transition, you can use a transition tag. Then the sub process, like we have lots of sub process within IIQ, like notify, initialize, all these are sub process. Again, within sub process, you can add other workflow as sub process also. And there will be action items, means let's say if you want, means again what you have to do within steps, whether you have to build the logic using scripts, you can use, or if you want to use default actions or default method where a SailPoint provided, you can use that. Here you can see call send mail, which will send the email basically. And you can also calculate the step execution based on a condition as well. Like if the notification schema contains user, you can go for these steps or exclude execution of these steps and all. Then again, you can reference the rule within the step. You can call the methods, default methods, or you can reference the workflow, or you can create the script, like which I have shown before, which is there here. I have some lifecycle event which has a script, and the calling method I have shown, and you can reference the workflow as well, like this. Then the next thing will be sub process is done. Yeah, transient, like there are some variables, so you can handle the execution of a workflow based on the variables value as well. I will discuss that in a while. And this is about the basic concepts of a workflow. Then comes variables. So it controls the approval, provisioning, notification, and other workflow related things basically. So as I mentioned, whatever you have seen in the variables which I have shown, right? As I mentioned, consider workflow as a standalone, a program, a Java program, or any program which you can create in other languages. So which will have a main method. It might have some child methods or custom methods, and usually most of the programs will have global variables. So this is what it is actually. So each workflow will have some variables, either it can be output variable or input variable, and you can initialize those variable, or you can calculate the variables based on the scripts, or you can calculate variable values in the steps as well. So here are some types, like flow control variables like approval split point, optimistic provisioning, foreground provisioning, do refresh, identity name. So this is the default one all the workflows will have. And split points, like if you want to enable split provisioning, you can go for approval split point. So from where the split needs to happen, whether it's after manager approval or for owner approval and all. Optimistic provisioning treats queued provisioning as successful. Means if you want to consider provisioning as successful and no need to wait for some external applications return value, so you can go for optimistic provisioning. Foreground provisioning in the sense runs provisioning in foreground. So basically you no need to enable this in production and all, it's not recommended. And do refresh, like forces identity refresh after request completion. So there are other workflows as well for calculating policy. So policy schema defines action if violations are found, like whether you need to go for none, continue, interactive, or fail. Like if there is a policy violation, do you need to show that to the user or terminate the workflow based on the schema you provide? These are the values for this variable. Allow request with valuation. So what I can show you is, here you have LCM provisioning, and you will have this variable basically. Let's say policy violation. Search for this. You can see initialize with interactive. So this is interactive, like whenever there is a violation occurs for any user, it will terminate. Or if you want to terminate, if you make it as an interactive, it will show the form saying, okay, there is a violation, please cancel this or take necessary actions, like removing some items might remove the violations as well. So this is how it works. Again, there are other policy related variables. You can check that in the workflows. Approval control variables like approval mode, approval schema, like manager and owner, like it's a comma separated. You can add multiple approvals as well. And IIQ will create a manual approval work item as per this entries. Approval mode, like whether you want a serial, like one after the other, whether a parallel, like both the approval item will be created. Again, we have different modes. So provisioning control variables like plan and flow. So each workflow will have plan, means all the provisioning needs plan, as I have mentioned earlier. Then flow, what flow it is, whether it's a request flow, manual, or custom flows like joiner, lever, mover, or anything, you need to specify the flow as well. Then notification variable. So if you want to notify a people, like you have the subprocess called identity request notify. Here, based on the schema which you have configured, the steps will be executed. So if you want to send email to the user, requester, manager, and other things, like based on the schema, you can, or workflow will be calculate or executed. Then other workflow variables, trace. So if you want to debug the workflow, you can add trace, so that each step input output values, where it is going, what it is calculating and all, it will show you. Then the source identifies the origin of request. Then project means once plan is created, it will be compiled in initialize step, and it will create the project variable, or it will add a value to the project. Then request ID, again in the initialize step, it will create the identity request. You have default methods for those things. Then the email template, for each workflow you can add email templates. So this is about workflows in IIQ. We have an identity lifecycle event as well. So let's discuss that. Lifecycle events in IIQ represents key identity-related activities that occurs during an employee's journey in an organization. So they help automating the provisioning, deprovisioning, and access adjustment based on employment changes. So the common use cases are like joiner, leaver, mover, rehire, and other custom scenario-based lifecycle events. So basically, let's say if you want to trigger any workflows as soon as user is onboarded into the organization or offboarded, like if user got terminated or rehired, or there is a change in any values on target, or like if you want to trigger multiple levers like deleting the accounts and all, you can go for lifecycle events. Lifecycle events can be created through a setup and lifecycle event, and there is a new lifecycle event you can trigger. As I mentioned, use cases are like joiner, like it will provision accounts and assign birthright access and all. Mover, so it will recalculate a business role and assign required access and remove not required access. Then termination or leaver, like automatically disable or delete accounts on user termination. So as I mentioned, you can go to setup and select for lifecycle event in IIQ, and you can go for new lifecycle event creation. And within that page, you will have you have to provide the name for the lifecycle event and the description. And each lifecycle event has the type. So we have certain types called create, manager transfer, attribute change, rule, native change, and alert. So for each, there will be whenever a lifecycle event is configured and it is enabled, right? And there will be an attribute called a trigger snapshot within IIQ, and that will be created. And you will have if you have configured create a lifecycle event, create type, right? IIQ will add need processing create attribute within trigger snapshot. I will show that later. And if you have configured attribute change, again those attributes will be available in the trigger snapshot. So how it works is like the current value and previous value. Current value will be there in the identity attribute, previous value will be there in the trigger snapshot. And if there is a difference in that, IIQ will trigger lifecycle event. As soon as lifecycle event is triggered and it's processed, it will remove the trigger snapshot from the user. And you can specify the include identity as well. There is an option called include identities. You can add rule, match list, filters, scripts, and all. So that is like, let's say if you want to exclude some users or include some users, you can configure those in the include identities. Like for triggering joiner, right? Basically, whenever a new object is created, identity object is created, IIQ will add need create processing attribute. So if you want to trigger joiner only if a user is part of authoritative application, those things you can do it in the include identities option. Then threshold type, fixed and percentage, and business process. Like you have to specify the workflow which you need to configure. So the basic things. I have a sample identity in my Git repository. Here you can see we have trigger snapshot. So this trigger snapshot will be added as soon as you have aggregated, aggregation ran for any identity. It can be for any applications. Let's say you have onboarded, or if you have aggregated Active Directory and it is not authoritative one. For that case also, it will add trigger snapshot. There you can see attribute change. So you have like I have display here for this user, and you can see this is a rule. This is not the rule which you have configured in the lifecycle element. So this rule will be the identity archive ID. So this is how IIQ will calculate. And as I mentioned, this is not the rule which you have configured in lifecycle event. So this is the identity archive object, the previous one. And as I mentioned, need create processing. Need create processing will set to true. So if user is or the identity is not present in IIQ, it will create an orphan account. And for that orphan account, it will add need create processing as true. And if you want to trigger a lifecycle event based on the if user is part of authority application or any application, you can configure that in identity or include identity option. So I have some lifecycle events. So within config, you will have two objects, like one is identity trigger and workflow. So identity trigger will be the identity lifecycle event object. So you can see I have identity trigger handler joiner, and the type is create here, and the workflow is lifecycle event joiner. And same goes for lever. Lever is based on attribute change, that is a new value and old value, and I'm tagging the lever as well. Then again, reinitiate or rehire. Again, it's based on rule. So rule, you can see trigger rule is rehire trigger rule. So I have three types here. I'm just giving an example like how you can configure lifecycle event. So if you import this file, you can see the joiner lever rehire or reinitiate in your identity lifecycle tab. So once you configured identity lifecycle event, like before that, like create a workflow, and during creation of lifecycle event, you can tag that workflow. So I have a joiner here. Inside joiner, what we need to do is we need to create the plan. Create a plan in such a way that account will be created in the required birth rate application. So if you want, you can add birth rate roles as well. So here what I am doing is I have certain steps. So as I mentioned, workflow is a series of steps. The first step will be start here, then assign UID. UID in the sense like each organization or company will have a user ID for the user, and you need to add means that will be a unique. So you need to check whether user already have UID or not. Some cases you might need to re-trigger the joiner and all, right? So in that cases, it will check whether user has joiner or not. Sorry, user has user ID or not. If user ID is not there, I'll be triggering some rule which will create, or it will give the unique user ID. Then transition to the build plan. Means if new ID need to be created, means what I am checking is in the transition, I am checking whether user has UID or not. If UID is null, then send it to assign UID step, otherwise build plan. In assign UID, what I am checking is you can see get new ID. I am calculating the new ID, then creating audits, then assigning it to the identity, then creating build plan. So in the build plan, I'm creating a plan, like I'm creating account request and adding that account request for to the plan. And account request which I am creating is like for birth rate application. So if user not having LDAP link and not having JDBC link, means that's the application I have. Here I'm calculating LDAP link and JDBC link using identity object. I'm getting links, then checking whether user has LDAP and JDBC application or not. If user is not having, then the LDAP link value will be null. So then I'm creating account request, operation will be create, and assigning it to the plan. Then sending it to initialize, which will be out of the box workflow, then provision. In the initialize step, IIQ will create or compile the plan and create the identity request. And you can see here, that's what it is returning, like project approval set, identity request, and provision policy violations. And that plan will be sent to provision. And here I am referencing identity request provision. This again is a default workflow itself. If you have installed and configured IIQ, you will have these workflows. So once that is done, it will go to finalize step. So again, you can notify the user. If you want, you can send it to a notification step as well, like notification manager, like send notification to the manager saying your new reportee has been onboarded to the IIQ or the organization. Here are the details, something like that you can send. In finalize step, if you want, you can refresh the user again. Before finalizing, you can refresh the user. You can do whatever you want. If you want to create an email box, or if you want to set some attributes for the user, or if you want to assign users to some groups, you can do that. In finalize step, you will be having the identity refresh task. In the identity refresh task, configure a process or a provisioning assignment to true, so that required birth rate roles will be added based on the birthright role configuration. So if you have set some, or if you have created some birthright roles with selector rule, it will assign required roles and all. So this is about lifecycle event in IIQ. So let's see like multithreading and partitioning concept in IIQ. So when IIQ is installed, certain objects are defined that control how partition tasks are processed. So these includes like server object, service definition object, and request definition object. So this object defines things like how many threads each server can run, like limits on threads per host for specific tasks, which servers handles partitioning request. So basically, if you are working in local system, you might not configure these things because it won't make any changes. But in real projects and all, you need to configure these things because you need to configure partition for your tasks like aggregation, refresh and all. Because if any task takes time to execute, right, you need to partition it, because it will execute the aggregation or execute the task in multi-threads or multi-host. So multi-host in the sense, usually the design will be like you will have multiple servers. Let's say if you have 4 servers, or if you have configured 4 servers, or if you have added or installed IIQ on 4 servers, you need to allocate 2 servers for UI and 2 servers for task execution. That is when request means when user logs in, right? Load balancer, you will be added load balancer, and it will route it to either one of the UI task for submitting request and all. Once a request is submitted, for processing it, IIQ will do it on the task server, right? So that is like all the task servers, or all the aggregation task, or whatever the task executed in the IIQ, right? It will be allocated to that, or it will route it to that task which you have configured, or server which you have configured. So for that, we need to configure a server, service definition, and request definition. So within the server object, so again, IIQ automatically creates a server object for each host connected to the database. So let's say you have 4 servers, it will create 4 server object, like server 1, server 2, server 3, and server 4 object. So you can set max request thread in server objects attributes map. So this controls the maximum number of request processing threads allowed on the host, and it overrides any max threads value set in the request definition. So if you want to specify threads within the server, right, you can go for server object, and you have service definition. By default, every IIQ host runs in UI, task, and request roles at the same time. So if you want to specify or segregate the things, right, like task and request definition objects, service objects help you to control which servers are used for task and request. So partition process are handled by creating request object which runs on request servers. So the host attribute in the request definition specify which servers should handle partition activities. Then you have a request definition. So this object define how requests in the queue are processed. So all the request definition affects partitioning, like only a few key ones, like aggregation partitioning, identity refresh partitioning, manager certification, generation of certification, and role propagation partition, and all will be there in the request definition. But not all requests are affect partition. Like each request definition sets a max threads attribute which specify how many threads per server can be used for that request type. So here, let's say you have a CPU, like 4 CPU in your server, and you can allocate 4 threads max, like 4 cross or 4 into 2, like 2 times of your CPU can be allocated for request definition or for any threads as such. So what I was meant is, you will have objects called request definition and service definition, and the attributes which affects are like max threads and max request threads. So if you want to create 4 threads for aggregation and 8 threads for request, right, you have to specify it in the request definition. Like you have to define it in the request definition. I will show you that. within request definition, you can see I have two files, that is one for aggregation. So for each aggregation which is triggered and which is configured partition or partitioning enabled for that aggregation, right? For those tasks, IIQ will create threads. Means the execution will happen in multiple threads. It's similar to Java threading and all. Again, when you open or when in your system, you can have a multiple application open, right? So likewise, IIQ will create multiple threads. How it defines is like, let's say you have 1,000 identities, and if you have 4 threads, IIQ will divide 1,000 by 4, and it will be 250 per thread. So 250 accounts will be aggregated in one thread. So instead of means let's say one thread take 5 minutes, and if you have configured 4 thread, the task will be executed in 5 minutes itself instead of 20 minutes, because each task will take 5 minutes and it will complete in one shot itself. So let's say if your task taking half an hour, if you have created a thread, it will be divided into the thread which you have configured. Here max thread is 10, and it is for aggregation task, and same for identity refresh, I have given 6. So identity refresh, again you have 1,000 or 10,000 users, and if you have configured 6, 10,000 will be divided by 6, and each count of users will be executed in the separate thread, and you can save that execution time. And we have a service definition as well. Service definition, as I mentioned, we have multiple definitions, but let's see for request and task now. So here you will have a variable or attribute called host. Here you have to provide the servers. Let's say we have multiple servers, you have to give multiple server like server 1, server 2 and all. So all the request and task will be processed in the specified servers itself. Or if you have given global, it can go on any servers. So you have seen like service definition and request definition. So whatever you have configured here in this request definition, let's say you have configured a max thread as 5 in aggregation, and if you want to override it, you can do those things in server. So this is, you can consider as a global one, no need to specify the max request thread in each server. So if you have specified this specified max thread in request definition, no need to specify anything on server. So when you specify a max request thread in server object, so if you have multiple server, like in the server 1, you will have an attribute called max thread, max request thread attribute, and if you specify value there, and it will override this one. So this won't help. Whatever is specified within the server object will be executed. Then you have servers or softwares required for IIQ that are like password interception, IIQ service, and connector gateway. So password interception in the sense like you'll be having some Windows server, there you have to configure a password interceptor, which allows IIQ to capture and synchronize password changes across connected systems without directly storing password in IIQ. So here thing is like, let's say password, like user changed his password in Active Directory. What happens is you have to do some configuration within Windows Server where a domain control is configured. Like whenever a new domain control is added into the organization, you have to add password interceptor there, and the new object need to be created in the OU, and within that you will have URL setup and all of like IIQ URL, the service accounts and all. As soon as password change happened, you will get like that IIQ object, and just consider the service will get notified, and that notification will be sent to IIQ, and IIQ will trigger password interceptor workflow. And inside password interceptor workflow, you have multiple objects like target applications and sync all. So whatever the application you have provided in the target application, it will configure, or it will trigger the, or it will change the password into those applications. And IQ service means this password interceptor workflow need to be configured in the global setting. I have explained already, and you will see that workflow. I'm not sure I have it or not. We'll see if I Yeah, this is what I was saying. We have a password interceptor workflow, means this is provided or out of the box workflow itself. You can modify if required, and you can see target application. It's a comma separated values. You have to provide the values here, like Active Directory, whatever the application you have configured. You can initialize those things here. Then you have a sync all option, so you need to add a sync all set to true, so that like all the application like password will be synced with all the applications. So you can see here compile project in like password intercept project, then examine project, then provision. Again, you can add the required things and all as per your requirement. So this is about password interceptor. Means each version will have a password interceptor. You need to download that interceptor and go to Windows domain controller server, install there. Then IQ service. If you want to enable provisioning for Active Directory, you need IQ service or any Windows Windows services. Like IQ service is a native Windows service that enables IIQ to participate in Windows environment and access information only available through Windows API, because basically Active Directory is a .NET based application and IIQ is a Java based. So if you like IIQ acts as a mediator to convert Java code into .NET thing. So you need to install it on Windows Server. No need of a domain controller for this. You can install it on any Windows Server, and that IQ service configuration need to be added in the application Active Directory application configuration settings. So you need to specify the IQ service server, then username and password. And recently SailPoint recommends you to enable the TLS for it. Like you need to import the certification in IQ service, as well as the same certification need to be imported in your IIQ server or wherever you have configured the application. And this is about IQ service. Means if you want to enable provisioning for any Active Directory application, you need to add IQ service. Otherwise, it's just an read application. You can't provisioning anything. And we have a connector gateway. So connector gateway communicates between IIQ provisioning engine and mainframe connector on Z/OS. So if you have configured any mainframe related application, you need to install connector gateway as well. So the provisioning engine sends multiple requests like T1, T2 over dedicated TCP/IP changes to channels to a connector gateway. Again, connector gateway forwards request sequentially to a mainframe connector, maintaining a persistent socket channels secured via DES, 3DES or TLS. And mainframe connector execute request like through aggregation, provisioning or role entitlement updates, and sends a response back to IIQ. And intercept function in is like, again, intercept functionality is supported only in IIQ actually. And as I mentioned, like IQ service, connector gateway is also a mediator for mainframe based applications or connectors. Yeah, this is about extra softwares in IIQ. So, and that brings us to the end of a SailPoint IIQ beginner's guide. I really hope this video helped you to get a clear overview of what a SailPoint IIQ is and how it works and why it's such an important tool in IAM. So remember, this is just an introductory session. Each module like lifecycle events, provisioning, workflow, rules, reports, certification will be covered in separate in-depth tutorials. Going forward, I will explain SailPoint's concepts via GitHub documentation or Eclipse IDE. And if you found this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any further updates or walkthroughs. So also feel free to drop your questions, doubts or topic suggestion in comments below. I'll make sure to include them in upcoming IIQ videos or GitHub notes. Thanks again for watching. Stay curious, keep learning.